This week's episode of Can't Kickflip Podcast is brought to you by Bonus Run Skate. Bonus Run makes some awesome slidey wheels for you to enjoy on any type of mountain road or neighborhood hill bump. The wheel of focus for this week's episode is the Bonus Run UAV. This plush slidey wheel has nice grippy lips and a big vented core to keep it light so you can haul ass into any corner of your choosing and bust a huge slide through the whole damn thing. Bonus Run Skate and Can't Kickflip Podcast are teaming up to give away a set of Bonus Run UAVs by doing a fundraiser. Buying a ticket helps support the podcast, and you win a set of wheels. You can get one ticket for $10 or 3 tickets for $20 by sending your payment to virtualslidejam@gmail.com via PayPal. We'll announce the winners in 2 weeks. Thanks for supporting the podcast, and thanks for listening. Now, enjoy the show with Rachel Bagels Bruskoff.
Would you look at that, the best part of my day? Even when we washing out and get a face full of hay, trying to make our way down and you don't want to crash. We all know what it's like dealing with the road rash, but we always get right back up after a good slam. The Can't Kickflip Podcast, please enjoy the program.
Grace taught me the importance of being blunt, and I love it.
I never said it was important.
You didn't have to.
You know what? There's a very awesome rainbow of people in skateboarding, so you can learn a lot and take it to real life. It's great.
I found that there were a lot of people that were what do you call it?
Neurospicy?
Somewhere. Yeah, let's call it neurospicy. A lot of neurospicy people, which makes things really interesting.
I mean, there's definitely a ton of people with ADHD in downhill skateboarding because one of the big side effects of ADHD is impulsiveness.
You know what? One person proposed, because they were buying a board off me, and then they were like, I was like, here's his price. And then he was like, this number sounds bitter. And I'm like, ooh, weird number. I will take it. It was literally cheaper, but I'm like, ooh. Tickles my brain.
I love that. Whenever I pick a locker in the locker room at the gym, it has to be a prime number.
What if it goes into the hundreds? Then
I pick a lower number.
Hundreds, thousands. You get it prime numbers.
That's a big locker room.
Welcome everybody to the Can't Kickflip Podcast. My name's Kurt, your host, and today I have the pleasure of having a guest host from the amazing country of Switzerland, Grace Wong.
Oh, that's me.
Grace, welcome to the podcast. And today we are interviewing the lovely, the styly, the fast as fuck Rachel Bagels Bruskoff. Welcome, Rachel.
Hello.
Thanks so much for coming on, y'all. Really excited to get into the story of Rachel. And Grace, I'm glad to have you here to kind of tag along and help tell the tales. Before we get started, though, let's just talk a little bit about how you two know each other and give us a little background on that.
You want to start, Rachel? This sounds like a couple thing. Like, how did you meet? Tell us about it.
Why not?
It is. I mean, so Grace and I, a little forward in our story, but then we'll go back to the beginning. We are each other's husbands. You know, what do you call it when it's not by actual?
I mean, de facto.
Like you just together for a million years, but not on paper.
De facto.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Sure. We've declared that for each other many, many moons ago. But we first met in New Zealand when I was traveling there for Mount Ruapehu. And there was 4 women competing. It was Alyssa, Ling, you, Maga, and me. Yes. 5. I can count. And it rained horribly and it was foggy like the first 2 days of the event, and Grace and the other girls continued to skate, and it was awesome, while I just was in a cabin being warm and from California and not skating in inclement weather. And then I remember at one point, like Grace ferociously passing me in the wet on the road. And then I think you crashed in the right.
No, I
Is that
actually didn't
correct?
crash into it. Like, I weirdly enough,
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't crash in the road while it was wet. I crashed in it while it was dry. Yeah, go
Oh,
me.
there you go. Well, that's weather wrong, memory correct. And then yeah, we met then, and then we just kind of got closer over time. She lived in New Zealand, and she moved to Switzerland, and we got closer through traveling around Europe. And then she came and visited me in the States for a 2.5 long road trip, all the way from Southern California to Vancouver and everywhere in between. And we haven't seen each other in like 8 years.
Actually, I have a more succinct story. So at Ruapehu, one of the girls was like, Rachel was like, "Oh, I'm really full. I can't eat this," because she'd ordered something while waiting for the rain to stop, rain and hail. And then one of the girls was like, "Oh, if you can't finish it, like feed Grace. She'll be your friend." And she fed me, and we're still mates. So
What'd she feed you? You remember?
To this day.
yeah, it was like you were vegetarian then, so it was actually a eggs Florentine.
Mhm.
So it had hollandaise, so that was good.
Are we talking like
So
skate
good.
event,
Mhm.
like food truck situation, or is this like just at a random restaurant?
Oh,
It's more like a ski restaurant, which wasn't really a restaurant, you know. You sort of you're at high altitude. There's one restaurant that will, max their prices out. That was the one. That's why I wasn't eating. This is probably why Rachel was eating, because she was actually sponsored.
There's no budget for food tied into the
yeah.
skate
No
event
budget for
travel.
food.
And yeah, it's like basically, yeah, ski resort, one road that leads up, and just separate from everything else. So all you get to do is stay in a cabin there and then eat the food there. And there's nothing else to do or shop at. And they didn't bring food trucks, and it wasn't like camping because the weather and everything. Were people camping? No,
They were
everybody
in
was in
cabins.
cabins, right?
You couldn't camp or else you would freeze. And Ruapehu is just full of
Yeah,
really sharp
that's
volcanic
yeah.
rocks, so people can get really injured there, and people have
Yeah.
gotten super injured there.
It's the mountain next to
Yeah.
Mordor.
Okay, now it rings a bell. Quick question about it. Why is it so cold? Was this like during the like winter or fall
It's a
or
mountain. No, it was a mountain. It's just
okay?
mountain things. So, but if I recall properly, this is probably like towards the tail end of summer. I could be wrong.
Oh,
No, yeah, towards the no,
No,
this
I
was
sent you
summer.
the
No, it was
picture
summer,
of us
summer.
from
Yeah, it was just a mountain
March.
thing.
No. Oh, well,
That's summer,
New
Rachel,
Zealand
in New
summer. My bad.
Zealand.
Sorry.
You're not
But
in the
March.
US. You're in
I'm
the southern hemisphere.
oh
sorry.
wait,
I
so
Our
forgot.
toilets flush the other way.
it's
Sorry.
summer
Everything's
in
backwards.
New Zealand is still
The
summer
opposite
though,
seasons.
so it shouldn't have been cold, but it is because it's a mountain.
No.
Is the road
Yeah.
worth it? Like, was the event worth
Yeah.
it
Oh,
for that kind of situation, like being in a cabin at the top of a mountain?
yeah, it was great. I
Okay.
think like what really drew me into the skate scene was just, your mates. So, when we were there, it was pretty cool. Like, we didn't have that much, but we had one guy and he was like 40 then, and I thought it was old. Sorry to everyone that's now 40, including almost me. But he had prepared like macaroni and cheese, and another guy who was like the dad of like the group was like helping like cook sausages and stuff. So it was a really nice feeling. We were all in the same room. They were like making sure we ate food, checking, like, were you okay on the road? Was it great? I don't know if you met them, Rachel, but I consider them to like be my very early role models in the scene. So you wouldn't have heard of them, but shout out to Chris Anderson and John Russell.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Chris Anders is everywhere. I've seen that dude everywhere.
I don't know.
That is a totally different
I don't
Chris
know.
Anderson.
Oh, Chris Anderson. Okay, my bad. So is this one here
Yeah.
repay?
Repay who?
Yeah.
Says watch stream. Do I click on it?
No,
Yeah, click that screen.
no, that is
Watch
Oh,
screen.
that's Europe, huh?
that. No, that is Hot Heels
Oh,
in
wow.
South
Ooh.
Africa.
I see. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't, I really don't know if there's any footage from that year. That, so that year that I went to New Zealand, I did an entire like 2.5 weeks there because I had traveled from Australia, where I had been in Australia for 3 months, and then I needed to leave Australia so I could go back to Australia. But I also wanted to go to Rupehu. And at the same time as I was traveling around New Zealand, Skate Slate was doing a tour. And so they brought out a bunch of Americans, and it was like Leah Morgan, James Kelly, etc. And so they were also at Rupehu, and then they were driving all around the North Island and skating other like specific New Zealand spots. And so I was kind of like crisscrossing with them at the time. So I know that there's footage from their tour, or it was a whole skate slate thing, but I don't think that I have any footage of me. And it was a long time ago, so I think it was like when GoPro 2s existed, and if there was any footage, uh, it probably was really low quality, especially because most of the days of the event were rainy and foggy and hail.
Yes, we also had this tour that used to be run by what's his name? He used to run tours for like visiting people from overseas, and it would just like skate random things in New Zealand that very few people skated at the time because it's still pretty early in the scene. What's it called? Yeah, I can't remember, Rachel.
I don't,
Um,
I know what you're talking about, but I don't
yeah.
remember it because I know that that's how I was like taken to a lot
Did
of
you
the
get to
roads that I
skate
skated
Testicle
as well,
Facility?
because it was like,
Yeah, I did. But Rachel did.
yes.
Yes.
That one looks
Such a
so
good.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, I was there. I was there when Skate Slate was filming their video there. And so I just like hopped in on their shuttles and stuff and got to skate that road. I remember it being a lot of fun. And I remember, did we get yelled at
Probably.
the
Yeah,
bottom?
probably.
Probably, right? Like that was a thing about that
No,
road.
no, it's
Yeah.
the thing
Yeah.
about the best roads, right? You just get yelled at the bottom. There's this one road in Switzerland that I've been told to not skate because there's a dude with a shotgun at the bottom. Comes out with a shot.
Sounds like North Carolina.
Let's hear about your kind of comeuppance. You're originally from Malibu, or not Malibu? Sorry, L.A. Right? Is it L.A. The city of L.A.?
Yeah, Los Angeles. So it's the county of LA. My family is from, or I'm from the valley, which is like, oh my god, the valley. Grace loves when I do this voice. It's her favorite.
Oh my gosh. Stop. We're going to jump off this podcast if you continue.
Grace, is that a very American thing? Do you ever hear that in
Well,
anywhere
I
else
actually don't
besides just
hear I don't
Americans'
I actually
mouth?
don't hear that. But when we were hanging out, she would occasionally say that, and then I would threaten her with an avatar spoiler, and then she
Don't
would
you?
shut up.
I
Amazing.
still, I
Oh.
have it in my queue to read. I still
Oh,
haven't read
I'm
it
gonna
yet. Don't
spoil
you
it
dare!
if you
Don't
say it again.
don't you dare!
Yeah, okay.
Wait, are
Don't
we
you
talking
dare!
blue avatars? Or are we talking like Avatar: The Last Airbender?
No.
Last
She wants
Airbender.
to spoil what happens to Zuko's mom, and I haven't read the search yet, but
Oh
I'm gonna read
shit.
it soon.
Okay, you're not talking about the TV show. You're talking about like the lore. Okay.
Oh, do you
Yes.
wait, you're an Avatar The Last Airbender watcher, are you, Kurt?
Oh yeah, I've got a Avatar
Yeah.
arrow on my profile picture right here.
Oh yeah,
I
he
did
does.
I
Yep.
did see that. And then I was like, I guess I can trust you, but I also don't know who you are.
An Avatar, dude. What the hell? Come on. But
uh,
anyways, so okay, explain to us like your kind of come up, and did you have like a general awareness of like longboarding or downhill or street skating? Like, were you a skater before you got into longboarding, or like kind of tell us about how you got into the mix?
So I remember when I was 8 years old, I thought I like saw skating in some way and thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so I told my parents, and my dad and I went to a store and bought a skateboard, brought it home, and tried riding it for 5 minutes and gave up. And that skateboard sat in the garage until it got sold at a yard sale many, many moons later. And then I kind of knew about skating a little bit, had no idea about downhill skating. In college, went on a road trip with friends to Santa Barbara, where we stayed in a house of like 10 college kids living together. And one of them was watching like downhill skate videos of him skating in the hills above Santa Barbara. And I remember watching that and being like, huh, I'll never do that. Okay, cool. And then, like a couple years later, I uh, got introduced to skating through a local college longboarding club and kind of just showed up to the sessions to be with the community and, smoke weed and hang out and just good vibes. And then over time, I just got exposed to all the cool skating and was like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then it just kind of kept in being opportunities to get better and better, and watching people free ride and then downhill, and then being so close to the good hills and so connected to the local communities that were filled with some of the best skaters of the time, and just kind of took off.
Who was the dude on the couch watching the videos of himself? Do you know who that was now?
No idea. Some
Oh.
blonde guy.
I wonder if it was Dave. Local Dave Billisbach.
No,
Not
no,
him?
no, because this guy had like this kind of hair.
Okay.
Very long, flowy locks. But I did spend a lot of time with local Dave later on when I would go to Santa Barbara often to skate. So
Okay.
it was just I don't even know if this guy that I was watching videos of was actually downhill skating. He might have just been like carving up on the hills in like ECC or something. But it wasn't a memory that like super fresh in my brain, because I kind of wrote it off like I'm never gonna do that. But then, once I got into skating, I looked back and was like, holy shit, that happened.
So you said that you kind of got into skating through your like local college league, or you said there was something like
The longboarding club.
a longboarding club. Okay,
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about longboarding club. I've never had the opportunity to be in a longboarding club through a college, and I've always been interested in like what that is.
Oh, yeah, it was really cool. It was a college I didn't go to. It was my friend at the time's school, and everybody was welcome to show up to the club, and it was actually a legitimate club through the university itself, um, until they decided to get rid of it because it was a liability.
Hmm.
um, Common story. But it was really fantastic while it existed, because we would meet once a week in this parking lot that had a hill. And so the top of the hill was flat, and then there was like a baby hill, an intermediate hill, and then the more advanced hill. And so everybody could ride. And I remember just seeing like 30 something people, and there would be people dancing, there were people free riding, there were people that were just bombing the hill, and there were people that were just sitting on their skateboards and hanging out. And it was just really, it felt so good to just be among those people. And so I just kept coming back for that. And then I started paying more attention to the skating and getting inspired.
So I don't know what it's like for you, Grace, but when I was like in college and in California as well, um, there were a lot of hills. So it was almost like you're walking up and down hills all day. Like, why not skate down them? Especially if you got some sort of skateboarding background.
Uh, so Christchurch, where I started, isn't like that at all. So city located on the Canterbury Plains, as you can imagine, is rather flat. So you do start to encounter some hills when you get further out from the city. But where downhill skating really took off for me was when I went to Wellington. So Wellington is the place that I think um, Rachel, you mentioned that a bunch of people were skating after Ruapehu. So a lot of them actually came to Wellington. You went to Wellington as well. And, they're just walking up and down hills. And at night, which was when I started downhill skateboarding, things would be a lot more quiet. You'd have some crazy technical stuff there that crazy narrow streets. Sometimes a bus would come up. But that's sort of where I started properly learning how to downhill. So maybe, yeah, like what the scene that you described.
Did you have to learn like sliding in order to be able to like downhill skateboard like pretty quick?
Honestly, so yes and no. So a lot of Wellington is what we thought back then was like, oh, this is a grip hill. And of course, for grip hills, you can slide wherever. But, I wasn't able to slide at the speeds that I was going at downhill. But, you manage to stay in your lane. It's important. But I couldn't, say, pre-drift a corner really nicely to, set up my line or whatever. But yeah, um, the good sort of slides came after a lot of practice, but that wasn't technically Wellington. We have a lot of blacktop, so it's quite sticky. And as you can imagine at night, like it's smooth, it's really sticky. It's probably best not to slide, especially when it's cold, because your wheels chatter. And you can imagine from back then, the wheels weren't perfect, so you would have a lot of chatter. We didn't have like the fancy seismic cores or whatever that you have now. So you would just have things that would honk when you slid. So it's best not to sometimes.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
wheels nowadays. Oh, people are
So
so
good.
spoiled. They
They
don't even
they
know.
are.
They
I'm like,
don't
the alphas just ugh,
even. Oh,
I think people
oh,
realize like
oh.
that like Malibu or LA skating, you can't really compare it to anywhere else because like it doesn't matter what wheels you ride in terms of like durometer or formula, like they're just gonna die and get obliterated and feel the same pretty much because of all the hills and the I don't know if it's like the pavement quality or what, but something about LA County like roads.
yeah. I
I
wonder.
think it just depends because there was like a period of time where, well, I mean, I guess it's still now could be included in that period of time, but they use like recycled materials for some of their pavement. So slurry is really sticky, like rubbery, I think
That's
recycled
slurry.
materials. And
Ugh,
so
so bad.
Grace, did you skate Tuna? We skated
You took.
Tuna, right?
Wait, I didn't skate it with you, but I did hitch some runs there with some people. Slurry's
Okay.
awful. Like, why would you use that material for a road? It's like you grip and then you stick, grip, stick, and it's really hard to predict.
It's because it's meant for cars and hot weather and yeah. But also, let me tell you something about skating in New Zealand because New Zealand does this thing on some of their roads where
Mm.
they only put smooth pavement in the corners and then all the pavement in between the corners is chip seal. So you have to rumble and then you get to
Oh,
calm down in the corners. And that's like a common thing. That's why a place like Testicle Facility was so sought out because it was one of the few roads that was all smooth. Am I wrong, Grace? Am I making
No, so New Zealand's quite large. We're also not the richest country, so to save money, you sort of pave things with not so great pavement.
your legs get real tired skating those roads?
the reason I brought that up about the group like longboarding club is because when I think longboarding club, I would originally before I skated downhill, I would just think like, oh, these people are just cruising around campus. Maybe like they're pushing down the bike path, like doing LDP, what we know of it as now. I wouldn't have thought like it's oriented around skating downhill, but it being like Los Angeles, where like I'm sure skating down hills is like rooted in the culture. Was there more focus on that? Like, was that kind of like the appeal of the club?
uh, so it varied depending on who the club president was. So when I first got involved, the club president was kind of, as far as I remember, he was like an enthusiast and he collected boards, but he wasn't deep into free riding or going fast or anything. And then, so we kind of kept all the meetings in this like parking lot. And then another person stepped up. I think we elected him. I don't remember if he chose that path, but his name's Joe Kutkowski. I He's very
Was this
deep
San
in Cali skating
Diego? Wait,
lore.
did I meet him in San
What?
Diego? Was this the Joe that I met in
Yes.
San Diego?
Yes,
Oh,
you would have met him at
oh,
Mirror. He was the
yeah,
videographer for Mirror.
yeah, very
Yes.
lovely dude.
Wait, is
Yeah.
this the dude with like the big
Yeah.
beard?
No.
No?
No, not him.
Okay.
Joe he was the president at the SFV Longboarding Club, which originally was the CSUN Longboarding Club. But again, we got kicked out of CSUN because of liability. And Joe became the president. And so we started kind of like jumping around to different locations. And some of them were more focused on like, let's bomb this hill, or it was like steeper hills. And there would be less people at those sessions, but it became kind of like a core group. And then as we started getting more exposure to like longer runs and stuff, we started going to Malibu, and we got I really think like the big hand in showing me around Malibu outside of Joe Gutkowski and my boyfriend at the time, whose name was Matthew Pexton, um, was Kyle Chin. Kyle Chin kind of like would come out of like the loaded woodworks and just go to these baby hills and ride with us, and we would have pack runs, and he would show us a lot of Malibu and Ari Chamasmani, because I think there's this run called Little Sycamore in Malibu that I think it's one of Ari's favorites, or it used to be. And it's all grip and you just go fast. And we would skate that. And Ari also would host weekly gel lab sessions on Wednesdays. And those started in the valley because Ari used to live in Calabasas. And so we used to skate garages and steep hills and kind of just go all around. And then we would also go into Malibu on like weekend sessions or something and skate. And I specifically remember there was like a big session once on Little Sycamore where we had like 40 something people in a pack going down this road. And it was hectic to begin with, but it was something that we did like every year. Every year it would be a location that we just like would take over, but downhill instead of, like the Broadway bomb where you take over the streets. And I just remember this one year when we were all skating Little Sycamore because somebody in like a Mini Cooper or something literally chose to weave in and out of the pack. And so there would be like, 10 people here, 2 people here, 5 people here. And this Mini Cooper is literally just like veering in and out of skaters to just pass us all. It was atrocious. And I also fell,
Yeah.
and not because of that, I fell some other part of the day. No, it was because of that. I foot broke because of that. Like caught my foot on the pavement, and I was wearing a Predator at the time. So I fell and scraped my chin because the chin bar went up.
Aw.
Fun times.
This is the kind of stuff that will make me fight people. And there's very few things on earth that'll make me fight someone, but a car trying to weave in and out of a skate pack and get in on that shit that's it.
So stupid.
It's the stupidest shit.
And it was like in and out of corners. Like this person was driving in the opposite lane in blind corners too. It was like if you get hit, all of the like crash damage is literally going into this pack of skateboarders too. Like it was just the most stupid thing absolutely ever.
So it sounds like at this period of time, correct me if I'm wrong, there was like kind of like multiple veins of like downhill culture kind of like leading the charge. There was like Kyle Chin and Ari Chazmani and your guys' club. There was I'm sure, elite group of let's film and skate the gnarliest shit Skatehouse Media people. And I'm sure there were other like veins of downhill or longboarding in general that were also doing the thing because, anybody who's ever stood on a skateboard and knows about the culture is that LA is kind of like the mecca for all things skateboarding. So how do you kind of navigate that as a writer, and then like what were like the pressures or the objectives that might have manifested in that environment for you?
I just was so in love with skating and wanted to do it all the time. And so I would participate in anything and go anywhere. Once I started going fast, I got taken to GMR and got ingrained in the GMR culture. And you could just show up any day of the week and hitch a ride with other people that were skating. I think, Friday mornings were big mornings where we get big crews and just take over the mountain. And we skated at dawn because it's one of those roads where people drive it and also have fun. But, we don't want to be on the same time. We don't want to be on the road at the same time as all the motorcyclists and all of the car enthusiasts who don't stay in their lane. So we would always be first there and get out once it started to get busy. Um, and so that was a fantastic time. And then we had the local shop, Extreme Board Shop, that we could go hang out with afterwards. That was right in town near GMR. So it was kind of the
Wow.
perfect place for that. And then there was also Skate House at the time. And I was a little too new to be skating with them. But, we would cross paths in some, skating endeavors. And then there was the Loaded crew as well, who I would skate with, but then sometimes, they're off doing their own thing because it was like the Adam and Adam time. And so they would make all their videos and stuff, but it wasn't as much downhill at the time. And then until I unlocked the more advanced part of Malibu and started drifting, and then I would go to Tuna, and then I would skate Mulholland and the Deckers and just all of these like gnarlier runs. And then I would be more ingrained in the like skating with or at sessions with the like skate house crew and the Loaded crew while they were doing more again, there's filming all the time, and you just like show up to Tuna, you can have a session any day of the week and just skate and have fun. And then there was just so many people skating at the time, so you could always find somebody to make a sesh with or just happen upon somebody at certain places like Tuna or GMR. And it was really an extraordinary time to do what I was doing because I just wanted to skate all the time, and there were so many ways to make that happen. This
Even
was
I
a
remember
big
this.
video
It's like, man, does it slide?
because I released a video,
Yeah.
I think the year prior, of me skating this road, and then this was me posting it as the progression from that. And I remember I got a lot of people that contacted me and were like, it is just incredible to see how much you progressed in this short period of time. It's so inspiring and awesome and blah, blah, blah. And I remember this day. This was such a good day. We had a giant pack, skating Molly, and international skaters, and we were just rallying run after run after run. And I actually filmed, I think, three other raw runs for other people. And one was Moritz from uh oh god, Moritz. Anyway, one is Moritz Armfelt, and so I filmed him, and then he turned around as we were ready to have the end of the session. He was like, "Hey, your turn. You get in front of the camera."
Hell yeah.
And so that's what this run was. It was such a good day.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that your skills are
I
on
remember.
point here. That first drift you did in the right, like the little tiny micro drift,
Hmm.
like I feel like
Hmm. I
that's what really like separates like the intermediate from the advanced riders, is being able to do those little tiny scrubs.
I did that just to show off. It wasn't necessary.
This road is so sick.
It was
I almost
also
died
the
in that
wheels.
corner.
The
I remember.
oh,
So
I mean, one of those rights is called hospital, so that makes sense.
my first,
Which right
So
is
there's
it?
the left where it's like a left right combo, and you slide the left where there's the big pull out so that you don't have to slide the right. I think that's hospital right.
that was the one you just did. Yeah.
It was earlier in the road,
Oh,
but
okay.
I
'cause
can't imagine.
this is the line.
I
Oh,
remember you.
that was my line.
The
That cutting
driveway.
that inside, that was my line. Yeah, I love that. Oh, I do. Watching all these videos makes me miss it so much.
It's a good road. I think
Oh,
this arch here,
Such
the
a cool
rock
road.
overhang, always stood out in my
the
mind.
bear.
It's called the Bear.
Mm. Yeah, because if you look at the actual shape of the rock, it's shaped like a bear's head.
Oh, my
Yeah,
claim
it's
to
really
fame
cool. If you, hmm
is I have a picture of me doing a slide like a toe side stand up under that rock. That's it.
impressive. Hell yeah.
This corner set is
Oh,
fire.
I was so pissed because I caught up to a pickup truck. We gave that truck so much time, and the twins are my favorite. I love just sending it into the twins, and I couldn't show it on camera because I caught up to that stupid slow pickup truck.
It's not every now and then you get it's not very often you get like a super like quick back to back corner set like that. I'm not gonna lie.
hmm
Like that
And
was
so
great.
banked. Like another benefit to California road architecture, banked corners. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's something you don't really find anywhere else. Like I feel like everywhere else is just off camber or flat corners.
There's some places, but Malibu is special.
Wellington, but you guys have proper long runs.
Okay,
So compared to
interesting.
There
Wellington.
was there was one run I remember skating in Wellington that was like up in the hills and it was like short and sweet. And I want to say it was all grip.
You've
Ah,
described like
damn it.
90% of our runs. You have described
But
90% of our
but
runs.
I
Which
didn't
one are you
skate
talking about?
90% of them. I probably only skated like 3. So, which 3?
You tell tell me more about this because we have so many roads. So when I lived there, like I remember doing a sesh with this like dude, and he was just like, "Yeah, if you guys come out tonight, 10 hills in under 2 hours," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm up for it." It was 10 hills in two
Amazing.
hours. Fantastic, fantastic. And some of the hills we did more than twice. So, but where? Okay, you have to tell me more
The
about the
only
hills.
thing I remember
What
is that the
out of
start
it?
of it was like in the middle of the road where there was nowhere to pull over. And then, so we had to kind of like be in the lane to start. And then the end of the road met as like a curvy T intersection with another road. And so it was kind of hectic at the shutdown. Is that helpful?
You've described like
I
90% of the run. So I'm sorry.
I got
Which run are
I got
you
nothing
talking about?
else. The only other thing I remember was being there with the skate slate crew and that it was really hectic skating that road and I refused to go in the packs with them because of there were too many people.
Okay, maybe. Okay, so number one was this
It was a
narrow.
2-lane, but it had no shoulder.
Yep. Okay. When you went down, like, was there a very tight hairpin, like 180-degree hairpin with cat's eyes on the road?
Could not say yes or no to that.
Okay. Because you would have to watch out for the cat's eyes because one of them is a pointer and the other, like, two or three,
Oh,
will
you
knock
mean
you
the
off your board.
reflectors?
It's not.
Maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Turtles.
What
Cat's
do you
eyes.
call that
What do
road
you
that you're
guys call
talking
them?
about?
Yeah,
Reflectors, because they
arrow.
reflect. But we do also call them cat eyes. So,
Yeah, but they're like cat's eyes. That was still
what's the road
reflect.
that you're thinking of? Yeah, maybe I'd recognize the name. Yes,
Arrow.
yes,
Arrow.
yes, yes.
Oh,
I
love that
remember
road.
loving it too,
Amazing.
and we
I
didn't
used to
skate
shoot.
enough runs there.
It's amazing. It just gets really, really damp at random times because it's caught in between the hills. So one thing I did in New Zealand was I did really like show internationals around. Not the skate slate crew, of course, wasn't that good, but like I would sort of lead people down and like point them to places where they needed to dive in or whatever. And I just remember people following me down Arrow. And they were guys, right? So they're catching up. So I'm like, oh yeah, I got a tuck. He's doing good. He's managing these really tight corners really well because you can't see what's coming for you, and you have these banks that kind of dip. And then I would get to the 180 corner, and I would make sure to like point where to dive. I'd be like, "This is where you dive," and I would dive in, and I would just hear this board clatter behind me. I'm like, "Oh, sorry." Like, well, you should have taken it slower. It's just, I thought you could handle this. Anyway,
Basically,
I
Grace,
Grace is really
I was the
cool.
best.
well, it's not very often you get somebody who shows people
I'm
around.
all
Like
right.
being a host is always an opportunity, and it's awesome to do.
Grace was also
Yeah,
world champion.
I mean, before, uh, yeah, that
Random
aside.
aside, world champion.
She won the
I
she
mean,
won the SEA games too. She's kind of a badass.
oh,
No.
stop it. But anyway, back to New Zealand. No, it was quite nice showing other people around, and I mean, I accidentally also reaped the benefits because a lot of them were Europeans, and like when I moved to Switzerland, I was like, oh hey, I showed you around. So yeah, people were really quite keen to take me around Europe,
Hmm.
so that was really nice. But I think it also showing people around your runs you get to make sure that they don't
Yeah.
it up for you. Not that I was worried about any one of them, but you can be like, don't do this. This is where you should brake because if you crash into something, you're gonna ruin the run. So, getting to know people, number one, and also number two, making sure that your runs stay pristine.
How do you get to be good enough to the point where you can just drop in a pack with anybody from anywhere that you may not know and figure it out? Like, is that like a special skill that is only acquirable in like Malibu mountains? Because I gotta say, you're really good at riding packs, as are a lot of people from that area. Like, it's just like it's almost like second nature. Eh, wink.
I I I think I think one thing for me is, well, let me say it's two things. One was stubbornness. Two was needing to like prove myself. And so like coming up into skating, everybody's like super encouraging, especially when you're a woman in the sport. They're like, we're so happy you're here. Keep doing the thing. Let's go to sessions and stuff like that. But then you show up to the session and they kind of just like they're like, okay, bye, and they'll start skating and leave you to skate in the back of the pack. And so I was like, hell nah. And so I would push in front. And I'm like, I'm staying in front as long as I can, and then I'm going to be in a pack. And if I end up in the back, so be it. But it was like me, really trying hard to push myself and to stay out in front and to tuck as hard as I can and to go as fast as I can and then to like be in the meat of the pack when possible. But, with certain people, because some people are sketchy and absolutely not, stay away. But on certain roads, and a good road for that is GMR. So I got really good at skating next to people, especially once people got, we became more familiar with each other. We could just skate in packs all the time. I don't think I ever skated in a pack on tuna, because no. But like I've also skated.
Ooh.
I mean, there's some stupid stuff I've done in packs, but it's fine. But it was really good because it just was like people were okay once I was in the pack and we got to learn each other, and then there was full support and like bumping and holding hands and like dragging somebody along, and it was a lot of fun, and getting comfortable with people and then feeling confident to skate around them is like the best feeling in the world. So I think just the fact that we had so many people and so many different communities that you could just like jump into and feel comfortable with, but there was like a consistency with it. It just created this like strength and comfort and trust. And then you just travel because there's so many opportunities. We would go to San Diego, we would go to Santa Barbara, we would go to San Francisco for events, out to Bakersfield and all of these other places. And we just knew each other so well that we could just skate together. And that was really, really cool.
So
You pulled up a video.
that was a Tepe and Taco's dress run. With all the
I love the dress run.
um. So who were some of the people that you were riding with that helped you kind of get comfortable riding in packs, or like people that you kind of cracked the code with, or helped you crack the code?
when I first started downhilling, I was pushed well uh by Sand Powell and Daisy Johannes. We were like a trio, and that was really cool. And then Joe Gutkowski and Kyle Chin, Matt Paxson in the beginning, we kind of would do things like together, but not too close. And then I don't know, there's so many different people that came in and out of LA that they would move to LA and we would skate all the time and get close. And then they would kind of just like move on or skate less or something. And then there'd just be so many different waves. And I skated just kind of with anybody I could and felt comfortable with. I'm trying to think of others specific, like in the pack runs. Oh. Austin Padroni was one. And there were a couple others with him that moved, and we were really comfortable in packs. And just a bunch of the like GMR locals. There's actually just like kind of a lot of people. It just depended on where I was skating, I guess.
Okay, so quick question about GMR. There's a couple roads near GMR that are not GMR, but are pretty gnarly. Having driven up them, the backside of GMR.
Mm-hmm.
Did y'all ever skate that one?
Oh yeah, yeah. We would. That one was we would have to always drive it first because there would always be rocks in the right. And I remember one morning we didn't drive it first and we turned around one of those blind rights and there weren't rocks, but there was a dead deer carcass covering the entire lane.
Oh.
And so we had to go around the deer carcass for every run. And then it was such a long road. I don't remember, but those runs were really long. So we would only do like a few and then go to front side.
From what I remember, it was like driving up it just seemed like it's like one of those moments where you're driving up a road and you're just like getting scared from thinking about skating it. It looked much gnarlier than GMR.
I don't remember if it was gnarlier, faster, but the turns weren't as tight as GMR. But you're going faster through those corners, so
And then
it was fun because you could top speed higher and skate in packs, and then it was long, so you got to like push yourself to get through it all.
And then there's also I think it's called Water Tower, or I know it as like Highway 39. It goes up to that camp.
Oh, yeah, 39.
Yeah, that one was so good. Oh my god. Grace, did you ever get to skate that road?
I have. Yes, she did. You skated it with Jules. That's where the top of that road is where we shot the album cover of us being all badass, and then you and Jules skated it together.
Oh yeah, I was rusty
No,
as
she was great.
fuck. Yeah, but no, I did skate it. No,
Yeah,
I really wasn't. You did take me to Malibu after,
It's a
so I
perfect
really
run.
appreciated
It's just
that.
like
That was
high
cool.
speed drifts.
They
perfect
chip
pavement.
sealed it.
I heard, yeah.
Every one of my favorite roads has been ruined by repaving. Every single one.
Molly,
Not
right?
Molly.
Not Molly.
But Molly had like lost some
I used to
pavement
visit
in the fires, so there's like patchiness all over it now. But it was closed for 7 years and they just reopened it.
Okay.
So I drive it now.
Oh,
it's fun,
it's open
but now
now?
it's open again.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Rip.
Yeah, so now I don't know if people skate it, but when it used to be open before it closed, we had a specific culture of how we skated Molly, and it was you either skated it at dawn or dusk on the weekends, or you just don't skate it on the weekends ever because of all the cars and motorcycles, or you skate it, during the week, but not if there's too many cars. You judge it because it's just one of those roads. But we used to just never touch it on the weekends ever, unless we were there at dawn.
It's a famous like spot, like a car spot.
You remember when you
world famous for I've seen Jay Leno there at least like 5 times in one of his, and it's always in a different vehicle.
The Mulholland Snake.
I get it.
You remember when
Yes, Grace.
Do you remember when you took me there?
And we met the forest ranger mains.
Yeah, so funny,
No, go
funny
for it.
story, Kurt. I'll be quick, actually. Um, we were like going down Molly, and we were like taking turns because it was just the two of us. And then one run, I was like, wow, this feels amazing. Like, I've got it dialed in. And I get to the bottom, and Rachel's like shouting at me from the car, and I'm like, what's happening? Like, she's probably like, yeah, it's so cool. And I get close to the car, and she's like, fucking check your nuts. And I like shake my board. The wheels just like, it's this rattle from like, and I'm like, oh, that's not real. I found room that run. I she was like, "Are you kidding?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, sick," and then get close to the car, she's like shouting at
Dude,
me. I'm
I was like going into that
Uh,
sorry.
righty, that ambulance right, and my back foot like half came off my board trying to like grip that corner, and I thought I was gonna die as I was like looking at the guardrail, just like, oh shit, my back foot off the board. Like,
mhm,
that's a good road though. I mean,
mhm,
holy shit. When it was
mhm.
And
closed, that
I
was the
mean,
best ever.
that
and
Mulholland and Tuna were my training grounds once I got bored with GMR. And also, I used to skate. Like one of my favorite roads was Decker to the beach, and that one got repaved, and then it wasn't my favorite anymore. But that road also really pushed me to skate well because it was really like sendy, guardrails, narrow, drifts, fast. Like they call it Cali Classic pavement because it's old Malibu pavement and it's the best pavement. It like that's what Mulholland is. Mulholland is Cali Classic pavement. And Decker used to be that. And then one year they repaved the entirety of Decker Canyon all the way from the PCH to the valley and bleh, slurry.
It's not
How
good
dare
anymore.
they? People still ride it, but I mean, people ride it. It's been like worn in, but it's one of those things where, as somebody who puts my hand down, ugh,
Yeah.
they ruined it. Also, they added, I think, texture to the lines on the edge of the road. Because if you look in the video, you see that I cut through the insides in a lot of corners and go into the shoulder. And at one point, you couldn't do that anymore because the actual like paint had texture on it.
So it would like
See the video.
bite your wheels.
Oh yeah, this. It
This road
it
looks
just
so
would
sick.
rumble. Yeah, it's this one, and it's that Cali Classic pavement.
Yeah, I didn't get to skate this road when I visited, unfortunately. I always
And
wanted
look
to.
how wide my trucks look. My
Yeah,
tiny
like with their
board with my
wheels.
trucks that were too wide.
You could
And
tell
those
the
trucks were
era
only 165.
with the Biggie Hogs, like the OG Biggie Hogs.
Oh, Biggie Hogs were so good. They were my favorite wheels back then. They just sugar slides. Watch me almost die.
Oh!
Whoa!
Is that just sand?
The classic view. I don't even know what it was. We stopped the car or at one point and went back and looked, and this is me being a wuss on tuna. And there
Let's
was
go back.
nothing there.
Let's see here. Whoa,
oh,
you just like
I think I just
what?
de-weighted. Yeah,
That's so weird. I mean, no, your board moved. See? There's like a little wobble. Boom. I don't know what that
oh
was. Maybe you
god,
hit something.
I I don't know, but I didn't die because I that was probably
Yes.
me going like 40 miles an hour standing up. So oh my god, that would have been such a hard crash.
You know what's funny as a downhill skateboarder, like how nonchalantly we just talk about how we avoided death.
I mean, yeah, there's there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's really cool because now just existing in life, if I try to do anything, I can just, peer pressure myself and say, "Hey, nothing's scary because you used to skate tuna going 55 miles an hour and you've gone off of cliffs and been run over by cars and yada yada yada. This is Highway 39." Mm, mm,
So good.
mm. I was up there the other day when it was covered in snow. Oh, it was beautiful.
Did you ever skate the road coming down from the end of the road, like past the lake and stuff?
Hmm.
How fast can you get going on that one? Because it looks insane.
Past the lake?
Yeah, there's like a lake on the drive
Past the
up, or
you?
like a reservoir or something.
Oh no. I mean, so there are three sections of highway that you can skate, and so there was the top section, which was fast and drifty. There was the middle section, which was just fast and had the bridges, and then there was the bottom section that was just kind of like chiller, windy, all grip. Grace skated all three, I think. Right, Grace? Did you skate the bridges, or did we just skate the bottom section and the top section?
Honestly, I'm terrible with like
I
remembering
just
road
know
names,
for
so
sure
maybe.
that you skated the bottom section because there's a picture of you and Jules tucking through it that I took of you. But I don't, there was a point where we stopped skating the bridge because the pavement was getting too rough. And so the transition actually over the bridge was too wobbly for
Oh.
going 60 miles an hour.
No, did I do that? Because you're warning me about it. So I
I,
wussed out, I think. And I was like, oh, stand up for ages and I'll not tuck so I don't
I,
get thrown off.
yeah.
I think it was okay. But I don't
Mm.
remember it. So it must have not been. So number one, I might not have done it. Or number two, I was standing up and wussed out and it wasn't that bad.
I, yeah, either or. I
There's
don't
Either
know.
or.
there's no
But
traumatic memory involved with it, so that's a good sign.
that's important. Very important.
There you go.
But
He puts
after
it so
those
well.
sections, it like goes up and down and up and down. So there's no point to skate any of the lower bits where it actually does go past the reservoir.
Okay. Um,
Mhm.
so let's get a little bit into how you got from the point of like training on Malibu and Mulholland to kind of becoming one of like the known names in like the downhill like race circuits and sponsored riders. Like, I mean, there's probably opportunities to have. I mean, I imagine being like a very good skater in Malibu or LA area. I keep saying Malibu. Uh, is one way to get attention, especially back then when it wasn't all about social media and stuff. Um, but also, like being one of the better skaters who is a woman in that area. I'm sure brands were immediately just like, "Oh yeah, you're on."
I got rejected by a orangutan in the beginning.
Damn,
uh,
that's sad.
I like was skating with I was skating with Kyle and I was like really getting stoked on downhill and I was talking to him about wanting to go to a race and I was like, I'm debating about, wheels and stuff. And he was like, oh, yeah, you should. Here's a contact message orangutan. And I did. And they were like, nah. I mean, that's, they said something much more professional and nice, but
Well,
I got rejected. But over time, through just like showing up and being a part of the community, I, met other people. So I met Pat Shep, who was the team manager for Land Yachts at the time and so I got offered to be on Land Yachts and Hogs. And before that, I met the guys at P&L and same kind of thing. They, just showing up to events and being a part of the community and skating. And I got offered to be on P&L. And so those were kind of my biggest first sponsors. My first sponsor was Edge Board Shop. And that was, again, from just like showing up to events. And they offered sponsorship to me and other local skater, Amanda Panda, at the same time. And so they were starting a women's team. And so we did that for a little bit and then just kind of didn't lead anywhere. So we went to other places. Um, and so yeah, then I had like P&L. Ojum was with me from the very beginning because I just have known John. He was at the CSUN longboarding club sessions, the SFB longboarding club sessions, all the gel labs. He's known me probably since I first ever stepped on a skateboard. So had Ojum for life. And then Lanyards came along and just kind of like took off. And then um everything else just kind of came from meeting people and going places and showing up and being part of the community. And I think one thing that's always been really important for me as a sponsored rider is giving back to my community, and especially as I traveled, because I've grown up so lucky to be in like the Mecca and to be surrounded by opportunities and companies. And through my travels, not everybody has that. I specifically remember being in New Zealand the year they closed down their last downhill skateboarding shop in like all of New Zealand. That was the year I traveled there because that was news that was ringing about, and that was really sad. And so, I'm going to like the Philippines and just like other places that just don't have access to companies or gear, and everything is so expensive. And I'm like, I get this stuff for free. I like, please, I want to encourage the communities to keep skating and to have better gear. This one skater who I got really close with in the Philippines, she was riding a board that was like 10 years old and like decrepit and like wheels that were 10 years old. And I'm like, wheels,
Jesus.
have these hogs wheels. I can get more. I want, and like she was so good at free riding. But like, it's just a thing of like access.
Yeah.
And, having the means and stuff. And so it was always a big thing for me where I just kind of like spread the wealth. And I love doing that. And it made some of my sponsors less happy sometimes. But I'm like, I'm doing the thing and I'm going to keep doing the thing, and I'm going to give my shit away to people in need, especially because I know I can get more. And I took advantage of that.
Well, I think that's like a really cool opportunity to just be able to go to a place and then just be like, here, take all my stuff. Like, because I feel like as a person who's not sponsored or whatever, like, it would take a lot more for someone to be like in a place and be like, here, just take all my shit. So that is a really cool opportunity.
I think it's also, it's a huge thing with how a lot of people get started in the sport. You
Yep.
just extend an act of kindness. Somebody lends you a board. Like I was just given everything when I was starting. Everybody just lent me things because they were just like, we just want you to do this if you're interested. Please take our gear and keep doing the thing. And so that was bestowed upon me. And I just want to keep doing that. And especially, getting more women involved. And it's like, I need you to accept this and just keep doing what you're doing. Keep loving skateboarding and keep skateboarding. And like, that's one of the best ways I think to create community, spread community, and to just get more people involved.
So I'm going to say one thing before I have to hop off, but that was exactly what got me to skateboarding. So when I moved to Wellington, Rachel like reached out to me and she's like, "Hey girl," and she was like one of our top female skaters in New Zealand at that point. She's like, "Hey girl, I heard you were moving to Wellington." I'm like, "She's not even my friend, but she's messaging me to go for a skate. Amazing." So like we went over and like then partner, and then they were like, I was like, "These hills are insane." You know, kind of a newbie. And then they were like, "It's fine, let's take it from middle." So, you would just sort of take it from middle and build up. And that's really how I got into it, through a Rachel. And then I met another Rachel. So
Preface that the first Rachel was not me. There was a
yeah,
Kiwi Rachel
sure.
before me.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, the Kiwi Rachel, one of the top Kiwi skaters, reached out to me. So I had to go skate with her. But sorry, on that note, guys, I have to head off. It's lovely chatting to you.
Yeah, nice meeting you, Grace.
Love
Catch
you.
you around.
Bonus Run Skate Co. is a wheel manufacturer based out of San Diego, California. This company has been making freeride wheels for a bit now, with their latest creation, the Bonus Run UAV, developed in tandem with Miles Webb. You may know him as Cindric Lamar. If you know Miles, you know he hucks big slides at high speeds and makes it look good doing it. These particular wheels have big vented cores and square lips with an offset core, so that you can bust huge slides and keep traction while doing it through those big corners that you know and love. They also slide surprisingly easily. One might even call them a cheat wheel. If you like purple Kevos or skate blood orange Strata wheels, you'll love these wheels. And they won't break the bank. Bonus Run also makes a super thainer called the Bonus Run Toy. Keep a lookout for that when it comes back. Go out and get your set of wheels and give it a shot. I'm sure you'll have a great time. Now back to the show. having riders on your team that are going to help the community grow are huge, and you should promote them and help them out. um,
I mean, I think that's one of the big pulls that I had at the time too. It's just like there was so much of the community that I was involved in. And, you know, and I had been from the beginning, from the longboarding club, like it shifted chapters. And so there was the original president of the club, then it was Joe Gutkowski, then it was me, and then we had all over Southern California, we had like a league that connected the colleges together, and it was run by other club presidents and me. And I hosted a slide jam at one point, and then I was traveling and meeting people constantly and going to events and showing up. And then, once social media started popping off, I was very present and I would do a lot of content. And all of these things made me a good candidate to be a representative for a sponsor outside of just my skill skating. And that is something that is very important. You could be the best skater in the world, but if you're not showing up, that's not something that will be like stand out.
yeah,
It also helps being cute.
it sounds like when you got like involved with these brands, um, you might have been like on that like wavelength of, oh, this is perfect for me. Um, how did that kind of happen? Like what was like the thing that led up to you being ready to, you know, help communities, tackle content creation, represent these brands? Like, was it racing? Was it like just wanting to go to races and be at these events in the community? Like, I guess what was your mindset like at that point in time that kind of gave you the gas in the tank to do all this?
I don't think there was much like depth outside of just my passion for the sport. It was really just fueled by I love what I'm doing. I'm going to keep doing this. And how can I keep doing this? And I was very fortunate to be in the LA scene because I had all the connections in the world. I had all the people coming here. All the companies had some, footing in Los Angeles. And so I was able to get networking and get like connections. And that's what helped me start traveling and get sponsorships, which is what helped me be able to keep doing what I was doing. And racing was, it was a big part of what I was doing, but it was bigger than that. It was more about me just like living the fullest life because I had this passion for the sport and where could it take me and what places could I see and what adventures could I have, all fueled by the love of the sport. And I know that with racing, there's a lot of ups and downs because a lot of racing isn't love. And so I had a lot of like breakdowns at races. And I'm like, why am I here? I'm not enjoying myself. I'm crying on the sidelines. I'm just getting through the race. I don't enjoy skating the road. I'm very much an advocate for myself. And if there's a road I don't want to skate, I don't skate it. But I'm at a race and I'm there to do the thing. So I do the thing, but it's like an internal conflict because it's going against what is like the basis of me being there, which is my love for skating. And so one of the best things about that, like finding the balance, was it wasn't always about the race. It was about the experience, like wherever I was. So if I'm in Italy, for example, and I'm at this race that kind of sucks, there's a road nearby that was so fun to skate, or I get to go to the Dolomites the following week, or go, transit to the French Alps in a couple weeks or so. So you just kind of like push through that race and get through it, and sometimes you win, sometimes you podium, sometimes you're just there and getting through. But for me, it was just mostly about like the passion and having fun, because it just I loved the feeling of riding and going fast and, you know, doing doing it for the love of it. Yeah. Sometimes you just show up and you show up, and that's what you do. And you grin and bear it, and you cry a little bit, and you have a temper tantrum, and then you get through it. And there's other things, not everything is 100% great all the time, and some races suck, some races are terrifying, some races you're just not having fun, you're there to compete. But I've also never been the type of person that's been like winning, or nothing, all or nothing. I'm not a competitive, well, like, I'm competitive, don't get me wrong, but I'm not like winning is everything. I won't do 100% of what it takes to win, especially if somebody's better than me or if somebody wants it more than me. I'm like, cool, you do the thing, but also I am competitive in the sense of like, hey, this person's not as good of a skater than me. They're not allowed to beat me in this race. So it's like a conflict with that. But also I'm like, hey, this person's better than me. Let's just hold hands and enjoy the run together versus trying to beat each other down and then maybe skating by ourselves, but next to each other. You know what I mean?
Right. It seems like a really technical, steep track would be more to your advantage. Is that true?
Well, first things first, I'm 5 feet tall and I'm a small human. So ideal tracks would be like the Catalina Island Classic, where it's steep enough, but it's just like a course with all curves. And you're just like from curve to curve to curve to curve, finish line. And there's no real straights. That's my kind of road. That being said, I mean, I loved racing at Catalina. It was a great event, great road. But at the time, I think my favorite race was Kozakov. And I loved it because it was the hardest thing at the time. It was fast. You're going into the first right at 55 miles an hour. And because I was small, I could grip it and I didn't have to slide like a lot of other people. And then, oh, I think the first right's 50 and the last right's 55. Semantics. And then you just have these like swoopy fast corners that you do little drifts for. And then you have this real big last straight that would send you into a grip right at 55 ish. And it was so fun. And I love that road. And I had all the confidence skating it. And it was also the big whoop at the time because everybody from everywhere wanted to go to Kozakov. So we would get like events with 250 plus riders. There was one year where the women's category had multiple classes. Like there was one year where the women's category had too many participants where they had to have the women who qualified with the lower times, they had to race to get into the A bracket for women. It was incredible.
Yeah. What?
Kozakov, that it was like it was the mecca of the time, and it like it was just so fun. The event had everything. The party tent was at the top of the hill. The camping was at the top of the hill. There was fried cheese at the food tent. That was like a classic Czech uh, food staple at Kozakov. And then it was like over time, it became like a music festival for like all of the Czech Republic. Then they would show up to Kozakov on like the last days just to camp and party in the party tents with DJs. And and then the road was just right there. The best events are when you're camping right at the road, where everything is just like accessible to the road. If there's any like separation from the road to like where you're staying, it just kind of, you don't get to have that tight community experience.
1,000.
Everybody's not together all the time doing everything. And
1,000%.
that's another reason why Tepe is so good, because you're camping right there. Everything is right there. And Kozakov was just, it was hard. And like, it really set people apart at the time because it was like you're either there surviving the road or you're there enjoying it and just racing your heart out. And I loved it so much. I lost track of the question.
Your Euro tour like was definitely, it looked packed full. Like, how many Euro tours have you done? Just the one?
4?
4. Okay, shit. Damn. Yeah, holy shit. Do you have an idea of how many countries you've been to because of skateboarding? Like, do you have a rough number?
I think the total number of countries I've been to in general is 36. And only a couple of those are not skateboarding related. And I think that is literally actually only one of those is not. Well, no, two of them. Yeah, two of them are not skateboarding related. Pretty much every other country is skateboarding related
Okay.
or had some kind of skateboarding I could do while I was there.
So, for the listeners out there, how do you realize that? Like, how do you make that shit happen? Just traveling for skating and making it work? Because that sounds like something that is, first of all, costs a lot of money. Second of all, probably puts you away from your job a lot of the time. Like, run us through the semantics of how you can like actually make that shit happen.
um, exist as a downhill racer in the years 2013 to 2016. First step.
Get good. Second step.
You don't even need to be good to travel the world in a race. You just got to show up. You just have to, like you said, have the time off and have the money to travel. And a lot of races, they just want participants. So you don't even need to be skilled, except a race where people might die. Then they might not let you
Well,
race. But
we're talking like
that's,
entry fee, rental a car, hotel,
mhm,
sometimes. Like what
no hotels.
what are the straps here? Like,
So my peak of my skating career, I was in college, living at home, and so I was able to take time off from college to dedicate myself to my skating career, and I was able to do it because I didn't pay rent and I didn't have a job, and well, I had seasonal jobs. I would get jobs in between skating tours so that I could pay and save up for a lot of the skating tours. But I also didn't pay for much because of sponsors. I was so fortunate. And again, this is coming back to the be a skater in 2014 to 2016 times when I actually would get paid money and get all of my gear for free. And I was so lucky to, have my sponsors paying entry fees and paying for videos, and there was just a lot more given back to the community because the sponsors could afford it or could afford it. I don't know the behind the scenes of the businesses and whatnot, but
well, land yachts during
it,
that
and
era
then
is definitely like, one of the more like well-known longboard brands worldwide.
mhm,
And when the boom happened, it was like that's probably the team you want to be on. Is either sector or land
mhm.
yachts.
Yeah, except they denied me from being on some skate and explore excursions.
That sucks.
I attribute it to sexism. I think the guys just didn't want to have me around so they could go to strip clubs and be boys, you know.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of the skate trip life that we don't usually think about, especially with like sponsored like big time riders. Like, I don't know, I can't really say too much about people, but I imagine if you're living it up as a dude who's a professional skater on the company's bill, you might be getting into some shit that has nothing to do with skateboarding.
I've seen a lot, and you really do see a lot of other people's sides when they're left with zero accountability in a different country, surrounded by people just egging them on,
Oh,
and all they're doing is skateboarding, and it's just like, oh, that's not the best behavior. Oh, you're doing that. Okay.
yeah, that's another thing to consider is like, you know, the kind of people who downhill skate, they can be anything, and then the kind of people who get
Yes.
sponsored can also be anything. Um,
Yes.
I don't know. I wasn't really around much in like the sponsor rider circles back then, but I imagine it's much different than it is now. Like, it takes a certain kind of person to be like out there in front of everyone winning races and getting paid versus someone who's like on their phone posting media content, which is like how it is now.
Mm.
You know?
There's a big difference now, but just as in like anything in life, just because you're really good at something and you have an influence and people look up to you, or you're really skilled, doesn't excuse being an asshole or being unethical or certain behavior.
Absolutely not.
And you can still be the best person in the world at something and be the most humble best person in the world.
True.
Look at Emily Pross, like the best skater, like she's the goat and so humble, but she also knows her skill. And so there's that fine line between confidence and arrogance, and people a lot of time mistake confidence for arrogance, and Emily has existed in confidence because she's allowed to. She's got the receipts, but she's also the so humble and so chill. And there's a lot of other skaters who just, people look up to these skaters, and just because it's a good skater doesn't mean that they're a good person.
Well, you've got skaters like Emily Pross, who's from like Virginia, right? Like that's where she spends her time when she's not racing and riding. And then you've got people from like LA or San Francisco or New York City or Vancouver who are all sponsored riders. I mean, like those scenes are huge. You're always surrounded by people who are like you're skating with and maybe like who are looking up to you. Whereas like I mean, like for someone like Emily, I can't imagine she had like a massive community where she was at living. So maybe that is a part of it. Just like where they're at, like how their local environs like stress them out or build them up into something. It's interesting dynamics, the anthropology of it for sure. But
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of ego
yeah,
based on location, like you're saying. Like it's easy to have an ego when you skate the best roads in the world and you're really good at skating and you're just like high and mighty, like living on top of the world. But it's also not like something that needs to exude through your personality.
no,
But there's so many, like you said, there's so many different people in skateboarding. So it is what it is. And pick your heroes, uh uh I don't know the word I'm looking for. Like pick your heroes wisely.
yeah, we say that sometimes on the podcast. Like, you want to meet your heroes, huh? Be careful. But yeah, I was
Well,
for
that's the cool thing about downhill is like no matter who you are on any end of the spectrum, you're coexisting in this sport at the same level. Like everybody can show up to Tepe. Somebody who just learned how to skate might be at Tepe, and then you've got Kevin Reimer there hosting it. Like
yeah,
you might have some of the best people in the world skating, and we're all just coexisting at this one event because we love this sport.
yeah,
And so just don't be a dick.
straight up. That should be on every like application for sponsorship. Don't be a dick. But
Um,
you in college, you had a background in like professional softball, and
no.
you kind of dropped off of that once that kind of reached the end of its like proverbial ladder, and went into downhill. Like, what were like kind of what were some of the things that being like a softball player professionally, uh, like that you kind of took with you into downhill and the way you looked at it and approached the sport? Like, I imagine like the opportunities that downhill provided might have been not super the same as like if you were going to be like a professional softball player. But yeah, I'm interested to hear like where that kind of like professionalism came from.
So it wasn't professional. I just played softball all throughout my life and then into college. But there's no real like professional place to go, which is why I stopped after college because it's kind of like there's nowhere to go from here.
What
You know, you
position did you
either
play?
I was outfield and a catcher.
Okay, gnarly.
So, but I mean, I've been in sports my whole life, mostly softball, and it just, being in any sport will train you for any sport and any activity. And so it gave me, some training discipline and an appreciation for PT and taking care of my body. And, um, but it also gave me the drive to be more sendy because softball is such like a sport of patience and waiting around, which is why I liked being a catcher because I was doing more and being more involved in the like every play action. But I also really enjoyed the transition to skating because skating was all about me in terms of like how good I do is how much I put in versus softball is a team sport. So I could play the best game I've ever played and we could still lose. I have to be reliant on 8 other people to succeed in this very slow paced game versus skating. It was just like what I put in was directly what was returned. And I loved that so much. I loved putting in the work and seeing the results and just getting better and better and being able to skate new roads and getting better at drifting and speed and racing and traveling and adapting to all these, roads and races and events in other countries and just going from there. And it was a whole other ball game, pun intended, but it was so welcome and I think what I needed.
Was there any moment in your career where you were like, "This is it. Like this is like the gnarliest I could possibly get"?
No, because it's a conscious choice to not overdo and to not oversend. And so, you know, when I was skating at Transylvania downhill in Romania, there was word of this like super gnarly hill on the other side of the mountain where you could go like 70 miles an hour. And I was like, cool, bro. I'm not doing that. First of all, if Grace was still here, Grace broke her wrist in Romania and had the most horrible experience in a Romanian hospital. It was bad. And I had to be there for part of it. But also, I couldn't be there for part of it because they wouldn't let me like stay overnight or stay too long with her. Visitor hours are over, bro. But her experience was atrocious in the hospitals, and drivers in Romania are terrifying. So skating this open road where they're like yelling about going 70 miles an hour, I'm like, have fun. Not for me. I like being alive. And these people aren't dying doing this, but it's just a risk that wasn't worth taking, in my opinion. And then they started having the event on the other side of the mountain. They started having Vulcan. And I was like, I'll just skate the chiller side of the mountain because you could still go really fast on the other side of the mountain. It's such a fun road. I don't need to go 70 miles an hour. I'm okay. Like, I'm having all the fun in the world, and that's not at 70 miles an hour. Cool. Also, in a country where the hospitals really did my friend dirty. So I'm like, not trying to risk my body in that circumstance either. So,
That's one of the things that I feel like is not often talked about is adapting to another country's culture. One of the things being like how they drive. Like that's such an unknown when you go there. It's like how do people drive? How's the traffic work? Like like how much information can I glean from the people who have skated this road before? Like is it enough to keep me alive?
I think one of the things that got me really good at skating in general is Malibu and skating Malibu, but it's because it's my local. So you learn the driving culture from just existing in it for so long. And generally the driving culture in California on most roads is it's fine, except on highways. People are terrifying on the highways, but we're not skating the highways. I'm not skating the 101 5-lane highway. That's dumb. but also, there's no reason to. But like, skating a road like Mulholland and GMR and Highway, we respected it because we knew what it meant for everybody else. Hence us skating it at dawn. We wanted to skate it when it was the safest for us to be there and so that we could have the most fun and just, push ourselves the most. But, a road like Decker, for example, people drive it for fun, but it's not the same as people driving Molly. So when you're skating Decker and you learn the culture of it, you kind of realize that everybody else driving the road, like 99% of people driving that road, are driving it so slow because it's steep and curvy, and they're doing their best to stay in their lane. So you just need to do the best to stay in your lane, and you can kind of push yourself a little bit even midday because the driving culture on that road isn't as terrifying as, let's say, the driving culture, midday on a Sunday at Mulholland,
Yeah.
where, it's just car enthusiasts or motorcycles breaking lane all the time. So you learn that culture and it gets you more comfort. It's hard to go to other places because you don't have the time to create that understanding of their driving culture, especially because like 99% of what we do is on open roads. That being said, you learn pretty quickly the cultures that are at like the very edges of the spectrum between like good driving culture and bad driving culture. You skate the Alps in France, and so many times, again, this is still at dawn, but these roads are like world renowned. So there's a lot of people even there at dawn. But the culture on these roads is just something I've never experienced because the drivers will pull over for you. They see you skating and they're like, "Oh, let me give this skateboarder more room. Let me slow down and get out of the way of this skater that's coming." Mind blown. But then you literally just cross the border into Italy and Italians want to kill you. And they're like honking at you and driving around you and you're afraid. And then Romania, everybody just speeds and just it's just very hectic driving culture. And every culture is a little different. But like those are like the extremes. Everything else kind of falls in the middle where I still maybe haven't spent enough time to really learn it. In Italy, it was like stay in your lane or you die. In Romania, it's like, okay, I'm not skating open roads. In France, it was like, hey, we can have fun.
What was the like? I do want to know.
Oh,
Like,
also,
go ahead.
sorry. I was going to say, again, going back to the sentiment of just like, I'm very picky about what open roads I skate. I refuse to skate in like open road scenarios in certain countries that just kind of don't have road rules. And so a lot of countries I've been to, I just wouldn't even skate open roads. I wouldn't skate the open roads when I went to Colombia. I know everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, it's amazing there." It's just too unsafe, in my opinion. Like there's just the cars just treat skaters like other cars. And that's cool because then you don't have to like it's a different kind of mentality where you feel less worried. But for me, it's just not my cup of tea. And like in the Philippines, it was like a hard, like, oh, I'm not skating these open roads because there's motorcycles everywhere and they weave in and out of people. And there's, sometimes these giant buses that are terrifying. Or, the culture is just the driving culture is just very different because there's not as like, it's also, I guess, depends on the exposure to the sport too. Some people
Yeah.
see videos of the sport and they're like, oh, that's just normal. And if they're around me, I'll treat them like bicyclists. Or, some people see it like completely different and they're like, oh, I need to give them all the space in the world.
What were some roads that you would not skate in Malibu?
Um, oh, I forget the name of it. Um, oh my gosh, I forget the name of it. There was this one road it's near Tuna and it's a two-way and it's really steep. And it was kind of like the next step above
Is that
Tuna at,
Payuma?
the time. No,
Okay.
because Payuma's all grip.
Okay.
I skated Payuma a lot. I just forget what it's called. But it was really steep and really gnarly. But the only reason I didn't skate it, I think it was also slurry, but the only reason I didn't skate it is because it had this ginormous right turn that was also an intersection. So not only are you going to be entering this right turn like 40 miles an hour plus while drifting, you also have traffic that could be entering while you're in a right turn. And I just was like, it's never going to be worth it. I don't need to skate that. And so I never did.
Fair.
I have some really good clips of me eating shit too over the years. I think I sent you. My favorite one I sent you is the one of me in Italy, and you see at the beginning it's the clip with the speedometer, and then it's just me. I disappear into the hay. It's like an explosion, and I've disappeared.
That
It's
was you.
and I literally went into a like down like a hill and got stopped by a tree,
Oh my
and
god.
like I was like this laying there and I couldn't move, so I just put my hands out and then the crowd pulled me out and then I was unscathed, not even a bruise. I went from like 40 miles an hour to like 0 into this tree, unbruised. I just walked out and went like this and we all cheered and drank beer. It was great.
Just bounced off the shit. What the fuck?
It was the wildest thing. They had a speed contest, and I'm like, I'm going to win this. And they were standing a little too far down the hill. So by the time I like opened up to slow down, I just had no time to make the next corner. And so I just exploded. So they clocked me in at, I think, like 79, which is 80 kilometers an hour is 50 miles an hour. So
Fuck.
I into that like kink was going almost 50 and then immediately tried to like slide to slow down to make the next left hairpin and I didn't.
Okay, let's dive into something that I want to pick your brain about. I think it's really important here.
Sorry, yes.
You said earlier that you're very stoked on being cute, and what I want to know is how do you kind of pick your style out? Because you've got these super sick like leather colors, and your helmet is like a boo, like and a Kirby as well. Like,
I
what's
mean,
the strat here? Where's your inspo come from?
so so back in the day, and I mean maybe still to this day, it's always like safety first. But no, it was safety second, looking good first. So I'm an artist, uh, and aesthetic and colors and stuff really matter to me. And so when I first started racing, I was painting a lot, and I painted everything to be galaxies and nebulae and space. And I was really known for that. So my first leather suit was all navy blue, and then the Kevlar, I got it white, which I then painted to be galaxies.
You got you've got like the pink and the blue Valkyries, which were probably the sickest colorway.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yeah, you were doing helmets for people. I know you are close friends with Gabe from Polyboards, and he had the Galaxy helmet as well. And did you paint all your helmets yourself?
I did.
Fuck yeah. These are your land yacht leathers,
Yeah,
yeah?
that's just my first leather suit. And then I you can see uh you can't see that much of the panels, but you can kind of see on the panels on my arm and my side. All of that is like galaxies. And then the helmet on the bottom was a V2 mid slid. Very It's fine. But that's also a paint job, and it's got the galaxies and then just like a million lines of mandalas. I spent so long. I was traveling with that helmet all around Canada, just painting it as I went.
Did you do the graphic too on the board?
I didn't, but I chose that one specifically. If you actually, can you click to the the next photo.
I'm really stoked on the I think it was Kirby that showed up at the World Skate Games. Like, tell us about that one. Like, is
Mm-hmm.
that your first video game inspo lid?
No, because I did the King Boo. So I'm just kind of like a nerd here and there, I guess, for certain things. And um I also, again, I'm an artist, so sometimes things just like call in a certain way.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of TSGs and I would paint them in space. And I also had a helmet sponsor at one point. It was um zero gravity helmets. They made like the Vector series helmets. And so I would paint all of those in space or in mandalas. That was kind of my thing for a while, was just space painting and mandalas. And it's actually really cool because I would bring paint pens with me to Europe. And so I would paint mandalas on people's helmets and they would buy me dinner or buy me beers in exchange for painting on their helmets. And yeah, so this TSG right here, I just always looked at a TSG and was like, it looks like a chain chomp. And then I was, my boyfriend at the time let me paint his helmet to look like a chain chomp. And he got the Reach, the Rosemary's Baby, and I was like, it looks like a Boo. Can I paint it to be Boo? And so I painted it to be King Boo. And then I got, when I acquired the Riche, I was like, well, it can't be Boo anymore because that's not for me. That was for him. And so I knew I wanted it to be something that matched my color scheme, but I was like, it has to be Kirby. So it went from King Boo to Kirby. And yeah. I've made multiple kinds of art with Kirby, but I've never actually really played any Kirby video game. I just think Kirby is a great character that exists, and we all love to eat all the things.
Not even
I
in
guess can't say we
Smash?
all, but I support it. Yes, I use Kirby in Smash. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Kirby's
so
my go-to
cool.
in Smash.
Yeah, I guess when you're choosing your color combos, um,
Mhm.
what do you kind of how do you go through the process of like picking your colors for like
When I first did my leathers, I just wanted a suit that wasn't black. And so I actually was like toying around with NJK about getting a not black suit. And I forget what we fully decided on, but when I showed up, it was navy blue. And I was like, well, this is my suit now. That's fine. And then I painted all the panels to be space. And then my next suit, I was like, oh, we're going purple. And so then I went dark purple with some silver details and stuff. And then from there, I did this suit with the multicolor paneling because my colors were shifting from like purples and teals and stuff like that. And then my most recent suit, which is the pastel suit that you see here, I actually sent them the like Pantone color, like the specific color codes, and they dyed those colors to make them that specific like pastel shades. And I just wanted something like pastel and cute that would also stand out. So many people have just all black suits or dark suits, and I mean, I used to be one of them. And also just everywhere, so many people just wear dark colors and don't stand out, and it's not a bright enough colorful world. So I'm like, I'm just gonna be full pastel and just I love color. I love color. The new suit I got, I specifically requested it to be like half as thin as ever as possible. And he was kind of like fighting me against it. And I'm like, just do it. Just make it super thin. And I will say it's the most comfortable suit I've ever worn. And it provides me the most flexibility and agility while skating. But still, as a choice, I only wear leathers when it's like required, not when I just
yeah, just don't
don't
fall.
have to.
So what about this?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And then let's talk about your Valkyrie trucks. So you got the opportunity to have a pro model through Valkyrie. That's pretty rare.
So Valkyrie is like my longest standing sponsorship outside of oceans. Because once I left P&L, I think in 2016, I hopped on. I like tried a few trucks, and then I just hopped on Valkyries and was with them ever since. And it's a wonderful sponsorship because there was always something new. Like I love that Evan just plays and creates new things, and he keeps like innovating with the tech and the trucks. And so it was always so exciting to see what was going on and to try new things. And every set of trucks I ever got, they just felt better and better every single, evolution of them. So that was wonderful. And so we've just like, and Evan and the Valkyrie crew came out in 2016 for a road trip and video trip in California. And so met him in person. He's a great guy, and we've just had a good rapport over all the years. And I initiated my trucks. I approached him and I said, "Hey, there isn't enough women pro model anything that exists. Like you can't go out of your way to make a board with any with women, pro model gear at all. There's no wheels, there's barely a board that exists, and it's been so rare over time." And I
Sure.
was like, I think we can work together to make this happen. And I think at this point I deserve it. I've had a great career. I've been on Valkyries forever. I have been a huge rep for Valkyrie and working alongside with Evan. And I was like, what I want to do, because I'm not the most technical person, so I'm not an engineer. I'm not going to Evan like, let's make these like engineering tweaks to these trucks. For me, I'm just like, we need to create something cool and different, and let's let's try some really neat color options. And so we played around with the idea, and he tried like a lot of different companies to see what we can do with anodizing. And um, just kind of took a while because it's not an easy thing to do or to get and to figure out. And I was like, I want purple, but I don't want this like pink anodizy color that people say is purple, but it's pink. And then it's just like that's the only color you could get. So I'm like, well, if we're gonna do that, then let's mix it with some blue and figure out a way to make it different and unique. And so this is what we came up with in the end. And I loved it. I think they're the prettiest things, the prettiest trucks ever. And just also having specific like colors is really fantastic that match my aesthetic. And I know other people love color too. So it's just like checked all the boxes.
Yeah, I think it was an awesome move. I always like seeing colorways of trucks, and you don't really see enough these days. Everything's either like black or gold or black or silver, and yeah, no, I feel like we need more of this. This is definitely like refreshing. Like I almost bought a set of these just because of the color. Like I feel like I bought a set
Good.
of Valkyries like right before these came out, and I was like, "Fuck, are you kidding me?" I mean, I got the orange ones; they were really cool too, but these were just like next level shit. So sick. Have you had talks with anyone else about doing anything else for like a pro model? I'm not too familiar with your pro model situation. I don't know if you have like a board or anything else.
So when I was on land yachts, I tried to give my input, which was thoroughly ignored. And in 2015, so land yachts was really cool. And so what they would do for me as a small racing human was they chopped boards for me. And so I had what at the time I called my bagel shark because I was getting the wolf shark and having it chopped to my specific shapes and dimensions. And that's what I was racing on for a couple years. And I had multiple iterations of Bagel Shark, which was world renowned. No, people loved it when I would travel and stuff. And it was a tiny board. It was tiny because I'm tiny. It was really narrow. It had this cool like uh, rocket shape. And it was a small race board, directional, had hip flares. It still had W because the wolf shark, but it was a gentle concave because it was cut out of the wolf shark. And it was this fantastic thing that every time I traveled, people loved it. They rode it, they loved it. They were like, this is a great board. And again, this was 2015. And I was like trying to hint, nudge, nudge. Hey, Lanyards, make this tiny race board. It didn't happen. And that is what it is for whatever reasons they chose. Lanyards has done a ton and was a great sponsor while I had them. But Lanyards has also not done enough for women, and especially some of the women riders that they've had on their team. And they've dropped the ball on not giving like Elena Corrigal a pro model, not listening when I'm like, hey, tiny directional race board in 2015. They came out with one of those years and years later after a lot of other companies did it, and they put somebody else's name on it. But like I was vying for that in 2015. They could have been way ahead if they just, whatever the reasons. It might be rooted in misogyny. It might be rooted in them just not taking me seriously. It might be rooted in a lot of like, business choices and whatnot, which I don't think that's the case because they made other choices, but it is what it is, and that did not happen. So I've never really been like in the game in with this like incentive, like I need my name on everything. It's just kind of more of like a hey, there's not enough women with their name on anything. And that's why I was like, let's go forward with Valkyrie and my trucks. I'm not the best skater in the world. I'm not the most skilled. I'm not the most influential skater in the world, but I have a lot going for me and I've had a great career, and more women deserve to have pro models, and that just does not
For
happen
sure.
enough. So I yeah, that's kind of like my backing for my Valkyrie trucks. And I kind of wasn't ever really thinking about pro models. I kind of wanted my own board just because I wanted a tiny race board that would fit me. And it took forever for the industry to catch on to that. But after I left I had a board sponsor based out of Italy called 031. Lovely, my Italian family, such dear humans, and the boards were incredible. But I realized at one point that the board was like holding me back, and oh yeah, and such a beautiful board. The construction, that board is in an Italian
No
museum.
shit.
It is gorgeous. Yeah, because it's got its wood layers, and then it's this special kind of like the top layer of wood is from like retired specific boats
That's so cool.
in Italy. And so it's just these like like scraggly wood layers, like thin sheets. And what they do is they press it with the carbon fiber to create this like, like this just beautiful top layer. Like this board is art. It is a beautiful piece. And I loved riding it for the many years that I did. But at one point I realized it was actually holding me back because it wasn't moving me forward. It was just me doing the same thing. And the board was somebody else's pro model that I was just adapting to. And so I decided at one point it's time to try new things. So um I put myself out there to just, try a lot of the boards around me. And there was just new companies and new options. And so I got to try a rocket board, and I really liked it. And so I uh, got in contact with Rocket and started riding. Um, they sent me a board, and um, I was riding it, and I really liked it. And I chatted with them, and I was like, "Hey, what about me designing something?" Because Rocket's also, famous for all of their riders get their own board.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is something that I can work towards. But this board here is a joint design of the owner from Rocket and me. And it's like a updated modern version of the Bagel Shark. And we were working on it, and this was it. So good. Everything I wanted, small, had my little, like it just oh, sorry, just ripped a piece of fabric.
Oof.
It's a great board. And we were working on it, and I, got put onto Rocket officially. And unfortunately, I had my shoulder surgery, and I just kind of haven't recovered. And so, unfortunately, the project just kind of fell away. And that sucks because now there's no women pro model boards. I mean, sorry, Lisa has one, which is great. We have one. I'm so happy.
Yeah, it's
But it would have been cool to have
So-
another.
one thing that I kind of had a thought about back in like 2020 when I was like full blown like skate like life skating was life, and I was like how my health is how the skate community's health is, right? So one of the ideas I had was along the lines of what you're talking about now is like, you know what, like skateboarding needs something refreshing that will give everybody like a breath of fresh air, and it's so far lost in the sauce of progression that it's forgotten how to progress. And when I was looking at it, I was like, dude, like women in skating are like the future of the sport because they're doing nothing but progressing, and like they have the perfect opportunity to like bring a whole new breath of fresh air in everything they do with skateboarding. And I think at the same time the Seven Seals racing was kind of happening, and that kind of had like a similar approach to like the same vibe, like put women on the pedestal, give them the means to grow and progress and do what they want to do. And it's weird how hard it is to just like make the skate industry realize that it's like you were saying when you were with land yachts, like you had this groundbreaking idea that they didn't want to pull the trigger on, but then they ended up doing later anyways. Like I feel like there just needs to be a little bit of fucking trust, you know? Just trust.
Trust
Yes,
women.
I mean like I don't know like why the industry and like the skateboarding like market is so like worried about like that shit. Like it's really kind of frustrating. Um competition and and giving women pro models. It's really holding the sport back, I think. But I will say, like, I think I've seen more women downhill skaters be successful than I've ever seen women street skaters or park skaters. Like, there seems to be more success stories in downhill skating. Because maybe it's more available. Like, maybe it's not so difficult to give opportunities away because it's not a massive corporation like Nike or or Real or something like that. It's like everyone and their dad can have a skate business if they want to. So Evan or Rocket, if you were to approach them and ask for an opportunity, they're like, it's not like a big risk, you know? It's actually like mostly they mostly can take away a win from partnering with women. But I don't know. I'd like to hear your point of view on it too.
I mean, I mean, you just opened like multiple real big bags of worms there, cans of worms there. And I mean, I don't necessarily agree saying that like women are more successful in downhill because there is just nowhere near the equality to kind of have that statement be. I think like there's just more people that skate and therefore there's more women that skate, and there are a lot of women that have great opportunities just because it's like a numbers game, at least in like street and park and stuff. That being said, it's there's still part of the sport that is entirely underutilized in every facet in so many sports. You know, this is an issue that's bigger than downhill. It's bigger than skating. It's the patriarchy, and it's just kind of the foundation of a lot of existence and a lot of sports because sports are, you know, male dominated. But, you know, there's so many there's just it's a numbers game in terms of, you know, street skating and park skating because that kind of skating is more accessible. And so you just have more people doing it, which means, you know, percentage wise, there's also going to be more women doing it. There's going to be more non, you know, males doing it. And the problem is the industry doesn't celebrate that enough. And generally, the places that do celebrate it are the corners that are it, you know. And unfortunately, because the overall like industry is dominated by men, it's an unfortunate like side effect that men have to like bring up others to shine, but that still isn't done enough. Like you can still flip through like a Thrasher magazine and count the women in it and the non, you know, cis men in it on like one hand. And that's not good enough, especially with the numbers because there are enough women and there are excellent women and non-binary and queer and trans skaters that can be in the forefront, be representing, but it's just not thought of, or it's thought of as like in the way of it being a token. We have one woman rider,
Yeah.
that's good enough. And downhill, it's so much harder because there aren't enough of us. This sport is less accessible and it's viewed as more dangerous, and there's so many more barriers of entry, including just, you know, and not just including sexism and, you know, patriarchal values in society, but there's so few of us. So it's, you know, the reason that there aren't enough women pro models is because there's just not enough of us to begin with. And there still should be more of a celebration, but the numbers game is not in our favor in this sport. And it's only getting worse because the sport is becoming like less accessible or less, you know, it's just the way that this that things are with social media and videos and shock factor and races being like as gnarly as possible. It's just there's one of the barriers to entry is people seeing it as something that they can do, and so you get even less women getting involved in that front because society also just tells us in general not to do sports, let alone extreme sports. And so we have to overcome so many barriers just to exist as athletes, let alone extreme athletes, let alone, you know, finding skateboarding often happens later in life. And so there's a lot of like skill barriers that we might not, you know, be able to get through because of many reasons. And then there's also, you know, as I've mentioned, there's the like you're in the sport, but you're not really pushed the same way. Like so many people that I grew up skating alongside, they're with their bros and they're bumping them the entire way down a mountain. They're like, we're not losing each other. You're going to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, have fun, bagels. You know, I'm never the one being bumped. I'm never the one that's like, hey, we're going to make sure your skill gets pushed. I did that. I pushed myself to get my skill. I had a lot of helping hands, don't get me wrong, but I didn't have the same push because I'm a woman. And because a lot of these guys that look at me, they're either like, you're not allowed to be better than me, or you're fragile, you're a woman, you just stay in your own lane, and it's just good that you're here, and you know you don't need to get better because you're here, you know. And it's like that doesn't help, and that doesn't create opportunities for equality, and it doesn't like let us shine fully if we're not treated as equals, if there's not equal spaces for us, if there's not equal just like entry or representation even. And it's all of these hurdles that you know, work against us, which is also why women in the sport deserve to be celebrated. Some people are like, get rid of the women's category, just have open. And it's like, yeah, open category is fantastic, but women have to overcome so much to exist in the sport. It still deserves to be celebrated. Women, as once the sport is fully equal, then, other categories might, go by the wayside. But until then, it takes so much as just like a woman existing in this world to be successful in an extreme sport, and it's worth celebrating that.
Yeah. Do you think that there's like I don't know, like thinking back to our conversation that we've had, you said that you started getting into this sport by like going to a college fun club. Um, and I do find that like through educational institutions or like parks and recreation groups, like the opportunities are there to do things like skateboarding more often than, say a legit sports organization. And when you think about downhill skateboarding, there's definitely like the competitive element. Sign up for a race, try to skate the track, see how good you do. And then there's also like the in the community meeting up with the homies, going and skating for fun as often as possible. Like even in that realm, you're seeing less women participation. Um, so I do kind of wonder, like I can't help but think, what are the order of operations to have a successful model of getting more women attendance? And you were saying that there is the patriarchy is keeping women out of participation, and I definitely agree with that, and you can see it everywhere you look. Um, but I've always thought of longboarding as kind of like a special thing that's kind of outside the realm of other sports, because it usually does draw in people who didn't get accepted and wanted to do other things that people told them they couldn't do. So it seems like it would be a great opportunity to have more women participation over any other sport, but you still don't see that happening. And I think people have been trying for a long time to help put longboarding and downhill skateboarding in front of people's face so that it seems like it's something you can go do. But these days you see a lot of just absolutely gnarly videos of just unattainable skateboarding levels, and it's like that's not what people need to see if we're gonna like try to get it in front of people's faces. So
Mm, I've been saying for years, we just need to bring back the era of like the Adam and Adam videos. Like all the like loaded videos at the time were funny and informative and just made the sport look accessible and fun.
yeah,
You're
it's
just
entertaining.
watching these guys go out and they're just teaching you a trick on a longboard, and it's awesome. And you're like, I could probably do that. They're breaking it down. I can,
Hmm.
do this. And even the like, you know, the Kyle Chin let go video of its time, like that was a monumental video. And it may, even though he's skating um SMR stand up, and that road is definitely not accessible for everybody to skate. I mean, now more than ever, it's pavement, but like back then, SMR is a gnarly road, so not everybody can just dream of skating SMR. But the way the video was made just made you want to skate. It just made you want this feeling of freedom and flow and like fun and enjoyment of just the ride. And we don't make those videos anymore. It's not about the artistry anymore. It's about shock factor. And all these people that are seeing the videos that shock them aren't looking at it as something accessible to them. It's not as welcoming in terms of media. And it sucks because it's not necessarily the people's fault who is making the media, although there are some problematic video phases that have happened over the years. But it's a problem with modern social media and algorithms and stuff, and just kind of what performs best and gets audiences watching. And something like the Adams really did when they were making these videos was it was art. it was pure art and like really celebrating skating and like the beauty of it and like the road and the flow. Also, Kyle is just
Style for days.
Kyle.
Well, I think one thing about the old,
But there's been so many.
I was gonna say the one thing
Mhm.
about the old loaded videos that is different, I would say, is like their pacing is much slower. It's like even though they're skating really fast down a hill, it still feels like slow in motion. I mean, for example, slow motion
Mhm.
shots. Like it's not trying to.
Oh, I went off that corner.
Oh, that's a
Ugh,
hard one. It's super
sorry.
banked. Um, but yeah, like
No, I went off. We were we were scouting it before the summer free ride event, and I went into that corner to check walkie talkies, and I slid off the corner into a
oh,
boulder, and my whole leg was numb, and I tore the labrum in my hip, and I could not skate for a while, and I had the most bruised leg ever. It literally was like a bruise from my knee to my
dude,
ankle.
what
It
the
was a wild
hell?
time. I had to go to a wedding, and of course I had a short dress, so my bruised leg was out the whole time. But it was a skateboarder's wedding, so everybody was like, "Bagels." It
Yeah,
wasn't like my family, like, horrified. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that that's a really good point that you're making with it. You know, it's just kind of like attuned with the, I think, like evolution of like how things are in media in general and society. And it's just like, nothing is slow anymore. Nothing is slow paced anymore. It's everything is about like go 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 and intensity and like the gnarliness of it. And so everything that garners attention online is shock factor. And it's not about the artistry of the filming anymore. It's not about the flow or the fact that skating more chill and having fun with people is part of the experience, because you post those videos and they don't get the attention, and you post a video of somebody almost getting hit by a car or somebody going 70 miles an hour into a corner, and that's going to get the attention. And don't get me wrong, I don't take away from the skill involved in that and whatnot. Like, I fully respect people skating like that, but it doesn't create, like, it doesn't offer a hand to say, "Hey, you watching this, join me.
absolutely. And
You can do this too."
and as like from a male perspective in today's era, like I think that when you do see women skating, the ones that are given opportunities by companies and media outlets, it's usually for doing the gnarlier shit, like downhill racing or it- or just like being like a race car. Like you don't really see too many opportunities given to women for being like a free rider or just like a chiller, or just skating good with style. It's and I don't know. I mean, like maybe we're just past the point of being able to market skateboarding. It's just not feasible. It's like I'm not being sold a product. I'm being more like just like engrossed by the art of it. And
You're being sold just longboarding. Like, this was the epitome of how so many people entered the sport. Like, so many people saw this and were like, "I want to do that." It's like, what hell I miss, like, and that was me. Like, it's just, and I think that people are there's just like no separation from the NAR factor to outsiders, and there's no bigger picture. One thing that is so cool about our sport is where it can take you. You're going to be in the mountains, you're going to be surrounded by nature, you get the wind blowing in your face, you get to go to these really cool places that other people would never go to, you get to meet all these people, and there's so many facets in our sport that are so wonderful and what make it special, and that used to be celebrated more in media, but because media is so short and you know attention spans are just like quick, quick, quick. It's just like, it's hard. It's a hard sell when you try to sell the lifestyle. It's harder. But one thing that's really cool that I love, that it's not downhill skateboarding, but it's in skateboarding, is since skateboarding has been added to the Olympics, there are always articles that follow the Olympics about the camaraderie of skateboarding. And it's almost like the world isn't used to how competitors are allowed to be friends and love each other and support each other. And the skateboarding is on this like international huge stage of the Olympics, and it's showing that. And I think that that's something that is special with every kind of skateboarding is the camaraderie and the community, and we are supportive and we are friends and we are here to uplift each other. There's a lot of goods and bads with people, and people don't agree, and there's a lot of things, but like as a community it's really tight, and you're choosing to do the sport and exist in it and have fun at it, because most people skate because they love it, because they need it. And so coming together, even in these like top-notch competitions, it's just, it's still about your fellows as much as it's about
Absolutely.
you, and having that connection and love for one another. And that is not something you see when you see these videos of just, the nar or somebody crashing or almost getting hit by a car. And it's
Right.
like, I feel like that's the best selling point that we have. And it's not used anymore because it's not going to get the algorithm going. And it's a shame. It's a shame.
It's almost like an experience that you have to just be there and see it yourself at an event or out on a skate trip with the homies in the mountains, because that's like where the real shit happens, and you can't show that very well in a video. And even if you did, like, not many people are going to watch it because the algorithm won't allow them to, like, straight up. So
Or they just can't stay long
yeah,
enough, or it's not enough, like, quick things to capture, to get the dopamine
I
firing.
think I think the reason that people moved to Asheville is partly because of that. Like, they wanted to keep that community stoke, like froth, chasing new hills, new roads, pushing each other, progression that Malibu had alive, and
Hmm.
not get worn out by like
Yes.
the the algorithm or like the Instagrammer like bullshit. Uh, and I feel like that's like one of the last. That's what I think. That's why people say it's the last haven for downhill in America, because it still has that like roots community. Um, is that kind of why you moved there?
Well, I think, well, so one thing that, yeah, I mean, I did move there, but I moved there for multiple reasons. I got like uprooted. I was living in Santa Barbara after I graduated, and I was living and working in Santa Barbara, and it was really fantastic. Santa Barbara is a great place, and fun for skating, although there's a lot of stupid, like gnarly roads there that, again, it was my choice not to skate them. I could skate other things and have, more fun that I felt was safer. Anyway, um, but I got like uprooted from COVID. And so I had to leave Santa Barbara. And so I was just kind of in this like area where it's like, what do I do next? Because I had to come back to LA, and I'm like, this isn't for me. And everybody was going to Asheville at the time. I was like, I'll visit, see how it is there. And I was in the food industry, so I could make a life anywhere. So I was just like, you know what? Let's do it. Had friends there that could help me settle in and get comfortable. And skating was there. And, if anything, I would just work and skate and, be a part of this beautiful mountain town surrounded by nature. And I really liked that. But one thing that I think, like what you're saying about like being more grassroots, and I think one thing that is so special about Asheville with that is that there's the separation from the business of longboarding, and all these skate companies don't exist in Asheville. So even like one of the big things about LA being the mecca was there was a different kind of like existence here because it was also business. So I know that there were plenty of times that my friends were out skating and I couldn't join them because they were filming for their company, and it was like you could only join if you were sponsored for the day. And I was like, "Oh, well, that's a thing." And so there's just a lot of like business oriented like approaches to the community aspect and just existing as a skater here. A lot of people were brought in, which was really cool, but they were brought in to film or to do things. And so there was like just this thing. And then there's a lot of pressure to, film a lot, or to start, posting on social media and stuff. And so it was just kind of this like different vibe. But Asheville isn't like that. It is kind of more like going back to the grassroots, where it's just like people skate to just skate, and they have these group sessions to just skate together, and then they have their community that they skate with. And it's really cool because of that. It's really clicky there, which is, I think, one of the biggest problems. But that's just a thing that happens, especially when you have a bunch of skaters living together and they're going to go skate and they have one full car, so they're not going to invite anybody else. And also it just depends on the certain roads, and a lot of roads in Nashville are really dangerous and really gnarly and blah blah blah. So, but it's just really cool that the scene exists there, reminiscent of what LA used to be in its heyday, but without the actual like pressures from the business side of things, or like the influencer side of things. Like at some point, every skater in LA is like trying to be a famous skating influencer. And people don't like, people will post videos in Asheville, and but it's just different vibe and different pressures. And then you also have somebody like Tej, who does NCDH, who still is so ingrained in the artistry of making content. And it's not just about getting famous. It's not just about, sharing what's gnarly. It's as much about the artistry of the production as it is about who is skating and what is being skating. And it also about celebrating the location, celebrating North Carolina. And I think that that is super important. And I think it's a wonderful thing that is going on there. And it's a nice transition from the vibe of
Yeah,
LA.
I think like the scenery of Asheville is like a metaphor for its skating. Like to compare it to Malibu, like in Malibu you've got really steep roads with big expansive ocean horizon views. And then in Asheville, you've got a gnarly, twisty, unbelievably like weird looking road, but just like in a sea of green. It's almost like it was just like dropped into a mountain.
Have you been to
Yeah, I
Asheville?
went there back in 2024 for the Roan Mountain Race, and
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
I
okay.
I spent some time in Asheville. I got to skate dice and elk, and it was right after the hurricane though, so it was like
Oh, it was
it
after
was
the
right after. Like
hurricane?
I went and did some like food delivery with
Oh, that's right. That's when the race
yeah,
was.
it was like right after.
Oh, so you got to, did you go higher than Dice? Because if you drive up the mountain, you
I mean, you could
really
see the mountains around it.
see the
It looked like
damage.
some like giant
Yeah.
had just like hit the mountainside with a big ass sword or some shit.
Flattened the entire
Yeah, it was
mountainside?
gnarly. But I do feel like
Absolutely.
I kind of went there for the same reason. Like I wanted to kind of go there and scope out to see if like it was like a vibe that I could subscribe to in order to like move out there. And I did find that it was super clicky and that there was kind of like that vibe of like if you're there to skate, it's great. But if you're like there to like make a career, like it's maybe not the place. It's like there's a lot of distractions there, you know. So I chose eventually. I inevitably chose like that's not it for me, not right now at least. But what was your experience like? Like you didn't stay there. Why didn't you stay?
Well, there was a lot of ups and downs with living there, and skating was really fantastic at the beginning. And I decided that I wanted to focus more on free riding and going
Eh,
slow, because I had spent so much of my career racing, and it was all about speed and just, gnarliness. And Asheville is just intimidating because so many of those roads, not only are they like gnarly, but they're dangerous. And I'm just like, you know what? Why don't I just skate slow and make my way as I want? And there's nothing wrong with that. And so I kind of was like, we're gonna go back to the basics and just relearn free riding, because I had taken so much off from free riding. And so I really enjoyed that, and I enjoyed those opportunities, and I really got to be like pushed with that, and it was great. Um, but life was just kind of like out of balance. I had some shitty jobs and I got fired from a really shitty job for a stupid, shitty, bullshit corporate reason. And um, I took like a trip afterwards to go to Canada and hang out and just be slow and breathe. And when I came back from Canada, 3 days later, the hurricane happened. And I was in this like period of like unknown. And I had already thought about, switching up my career, my life, and the hurricane happened and I had no job and Asheville was it just was time to move on, unfortunately. And I had undergone shoulder surgery the year before and everything changed from shoulder surgery because I went into shoulder surgery expecting a minor surgery. I was expecting them just to repair some bone spurs that were happening because I had a bunch of injuries in my shoulder. But when they cut me open, they saw that my shoulder was just like, yeah, fucked. So they did a full reconstruction. And so it went from like a 3 month recovery to over a year. And I wasn't mentally prepared for it. It really messed with my mental health. And it took a lot of learning as I was going and realizations. And, I fully support the healing process and taking the time I need. And I did that. But it was really hard to see much else there.
For sure.
And so I was like, you know what? I think it's time to make a change. And that included leaving Asheville. And I'm fortunate that I had the opportunity. And I'm very lucky that I didn't experience any of the worst during the hurricane. My power went out. We had no running water. We had no service. I experienced, that, but the hurricane was devastating. And it was a horrible, horrible thing that happened to Asheville. And I I'm very lucky for my existence through that after it and the opportunities that I can, come from it. And I'm ecstatic to see like Asheville recovering from it. And I've never felt more sense of community than after the hurricane. And it's not just like the
Yeah.
skate community. It's just in general how the entire like town came together and was supportive. And that was a wonderful thing to experience in the aftermath of something so horrible. And I learned a lot. I volunteered a lot. I saw so much of the damage, like firsthand, not intentionally a lot. Like some of it was accidentally, where I just found myself in the back country because I missed a turn and I was like in there. And, going up Elk and being at the top of the mountain and seeing, how the whole mountainside is flattened, how there were literally like trees curved in on itself because tornadoes ripped through the area. Like it just, all of it is like unfathomable. And it happened. And coming out of it, Asheville is strong and recovers. And I'm stoked to see all the progress and a lot that came out of it is good and is going to be towards a better future for the
Yeah.
city. But I learned a lot about how my time there was done. And it was time for me to switch up my life and to come back to California.
Cool. So, what's next for Bagels?
I don't know, man. I used to always make jokes about like the paths like skaters take when they stop skating. I'm like, there are only a few options. There's like a handful of options. You stop skating, you either get a motorcycle or get really into cars. You start surfing, Southern California. You rock climb or you become a road bicyclist. And then the fifth option is just everything else, I guess, or et cetera, XYZ. But it's like those were the options that you do once you stop skating. And I have known many a converted road cyclist. There are so many. And that's, it's awesome. I support it. Some mountain bikers. Kyle Chin is a mountain biker right now. We follow each other on Strava. I get to see all of the cool mountain biking he does. Um, and I'm currently rock climbing.
Nice. Do you do it out in the wild or do you go a gym?
I lived in Vegas for a little bit and climbed outside a little bit, but right now I'm just in the gym while I'm trying to build up some community to ultimately go outside. And I love that rock climbing seems like so much in parallel with everything I got out of skating. It'll bring me really cool remote places connected to nature. doing an activity that, challenges me, forces me to think on my feet and off my feet, and is also like, adrenaline. And it's great. And I hope to, still skate here and there, um, as well. But it's not as strong of a passion as it was. And unfortunately, that also because I'm getting older, my body is doing things and undergoing things, and I have very much abused it over the past, like, decade or more of being a
As we all
skater.
have. I think that rock climbing might be good for it though, for skating, because like you're gonna get in shape, you're gonna get stronger, and then maybe skating with strength, more strength, will be like awesome. Maybe it'll be like a completely revitalized experience.
Yeah, I mean, I'll see what happens, but it's really nice to be working and flexing some different muscles. I've like spent, because I was a catcher for softball. I've spent like 20 plus years of my life squatting. Skating is squatting. Softball was squatting. So it's really nice to be in the gym, like putting my upper body to use.
I've got a couple guest questions that we got to ask you. Um, so the first guest question is from Emily Pross. She asks, well, "What is the biggest event travel oops you've had while traveling for skateboarding?"
Okay. Huh. There's like I had like a rush of like five different stories come into my head. Um, Trying to think what's the most entertaining. um, well, so there's one really good story, but it's not to an event. I would say, well, it was like in the middle of an event, but it's a whole thing. But like there was this event in the Philippines that I went to multiple years. It was called the Visayan Longboard Trilogy, and it was a multi-tiered event. And so you found your way out to this island in the middle of nowhere, and then there was like a fun race there and little free ride, and then you just explored the island, waterfalls, hanging out on the beach, hammocks, just drunk all the time. And then you shift from that island to another island where there was a slide jam, and then you went from that island to another area where it was like you were in a town that led to there was like a huge mountain there, and they had this clinic, and it was a skate clinic. So all of the like international riders would be like teachers for the day, teaching local Filipino skaters anything, just skating with them. And they had it where it was like, the beginners go with this person, the more advanced go with this person, and then the really gnarly skaters would just run laps around the gnarly parts of the road. And that road was one of the coolest roads I've ever
That was
skated in
like
my life.
the
It was
mango clinic,
so
right?
Yes, yes, it was the Super Mango Clinic, and that road itself it was like three tunas
What?
in one, and it was so fun, except the pavement was just
Ah,
atrocious, and it was so horrible. And so the second year we went, we could only skate certain bits that weren't just destroyed, and then it was still real fucked up to skate because you would just like get your hand blown out behind you, or like your wheels would hit a gap. It was just such bad pavement. And this road is also like 10 minutes long. So they split it up into different sections, and it was really cool because it literally went from easy to hard. So they literally split us up, and like as you felt like you got more comfortable in riding, you would skate further down because you would become a beginner to an intermediate to an advanced skater.
interesting.
So it's really the perfect road for a clinic. It was so fun. And then after this event, we would go back closer to like we would go to a different part of the Philippines. The Philippines is like 7,000 islands. This was a whole big tour, and there was the race, which was a IDF race. So I was just sessioning corners with Tamara Prater, and I was doing stand up slides. And at the edge of the road, it's sandy.
Oh,
And so what happened was, is as I kicked out the slide, it just got pushed away from me because it got taken. The wheels just slipped in the sand, and so I fell back into leg, and I heard a snap, and I was like, fuck, And so uh I don't remember being in any like real pain. It was just more like shock and more disappointment. Like the Catalina Island Classic was gonna be in like a few weeks. And I literally remember I think my only reaction was, I'm not gonna be able to skate Catalina. And so Tamara's there, and at some point Patrick Switzer shows up, and he had just undergone like his horrible like life altering ankle injury the year before. So he's there like, you know, with my leg up, like helping me, talking to me and keeping me comfort until they brought like a shuttle car or something to take me down. And luckily, a local came with me to speak the language. But we're in the middle of nowhere. They don't have a hospital. So they took me to a local clinic. So luckily one of the local who came with me was translating, but he said the doctor said, "Oh, it's just a bruise. You're going to be fine." And I was like, I heard a snap. And so they're like, "Okay, well the next nearest hospital is a half hour away." So got back in the ambulance, which was just like a van, drove another half hour to a hospital that was also a church and had dogs coming in and out of it. And they took an x-ray, which they then gave me on a piece of just like basic Xerox paper and sent me away. No crutches, nothing. So I was just like hopping around and sitting on my skateboard and pushing around. And I found out from another skater that my leg was broken because nobody at the hospital talked to me. They just handed me the paper and sent me away. And I was like, well, I guess my leg is broken. I had like a the thin fabric bandage around my ankle, and that was it. And luckily, one of my friends from Australia, Gemma, she had this isn't lucky for her. She had hurt her ankle in Australia a couple weeks before this event, and she still came out to the event. So she was there with crutches. So she and I shared her crutches. And so we would like she would walk a few feet, hand her crutches back, and then I would go
Oh my
ahead.
God, dude.
And so we shared crutches and then we went to the next town, which was where the IDF race was going to be. And I obviously couldn't compete because I had my ankle. And so I was there watching the race from the sidelines. And again, Gemma and I were sharing each other's crutches, or her crutches she was sharing with me. And then I eventually got myself to Cebu and went to an actual doctor, to multiple hospitals that would, take me and just paying because I didn't have, you know. And so I finally, got, somebody was telling me, it's broken, blah, blah, blah. And then they still didn't give me a cast. I had to pay some locals to buy me crutches, and they bought crutches that were too tall for me. So I had to use crutches that were too tall. And then I had travel insurance, always have travel insurance. So I made a claim with my travel insurance. They flew a nurse out, and then they flew us both home first class. And I remember as we were flying from Cebu to Manila to then fly to LA, there was lightning storms the entire time, and we're high enough, and all of the lightning storms were concentrated to each individual island. And so you would look out the window and you just see like an island with its own lightning storm, and the sky's all black, and then it turns purple because it was at night. And then you're flying, and then there's another island, same thing, its own concentrated lightning storm. It was the coolest thing. And I'm on the plane. I have a fresh tattoo, and so I'm like bandaged, and then I'm in my crutches, and nobody else was in first class. So I'm just hopping from each side of the plane to back and forth to just look at this lightning storm. And then I eventually got back to LA, went to a doctor. They're like, "Oh, this is a, full break, but it's not that bad." So they just gave me a walking cast. And then the next weekend was Catalina, and I just went there to, be a nuisance and drink and party and enjoy, and I didn't skate. And then, like a couple weeks later, I was out of the cast, and the first thing I skated was Decker to the Beach.
Check out this this picture that I took of you at Cathlamet back in 2014.
Oh my gosh, I know this picture. Oh my God.
Dude,
Kath Lammett was. Do you? Do you remember what this is 20 what? 14?
2014, yeah.
August?
I think so, yeah.
August
August 15th,
2014.
2014.
Oh, okay. So this was before my big trip around the world cuz December of this year I left college early. All of my professors were really cool and let me take my finals early or didn't even like one of my professors just counted my midterm twice. And I December 4th, 2014, I went to South Africa and I raced in the last hot heels. And then after that was over and I like explored South Africa for a little bit, I went to Australia and I went all around the east coast of Australia, went to a race in Tasmania, went to New Zealand, raced at Rupehu, explored New Zealand for a bit, went back to Australia, then went to the Philippines and then came home. And so I was gone for like 5 months and let me tell you, I was so tan by the end of that. And then that summer, I went to Canada and I did some, Danger Bay and Jake's Rash and Britannia. And then I went from Canada to Europe and then did the entire Euro tour and then came back, went to Whistler, got injured at Whistler. This is a big year. Got injured at Whistler, came back to LA. The doctor said I just had a bruise and I was like, "Cool, it's just a bruise. I'm going to keep skating." Went to South America to compete and do races in Colombia and Peru and then there were races in Brazil, but I decided not to go because the entire time I was racing, my ankle was fucked up and I couldn't it was bad. But then I stayed in Peru and hiked the Inca Trail and went to Machu Picchu. And then I came home and the doctor was like, "Oh, you have a really bad sprain." And then it took like 2 months to heal. And so I think that year I was back in LA for probably like a total of 2 months for the entire year. It was a good year.
We could do a whole podcast episode on just your travels and just like the
I mean,
the chronological like timeline of where you went and what happened. Shit, you should just make a documentary on
there's
it.
literally, I've thought about writing it down or something. I have so many stories. I have so many exciting, wild, stupid, fun stories. There's so many times where I've been so close to death. There's so many times where it's just like that happened. There's just so
Fuck.
much fun, so many good friendships. It's just like there's a lot. I've had a wild career and I'm so thankful for it. And I'm thankful I didn't die. That's
Well,
pretty
I
cool.
would say like one thing that I've always noticed about you is, and I feel like everyone does, is you've always got a smile on your face at events or skating in general. So it's like those smiles were well earned by a really fruitful career and meeting amazing people all over the planet.
It's really wonderful to have existed as like somebody who just loved what I was doing. And there wasn't like a pressure of being like, you know, the top athlete and needing to win all the events and to like podium and to be the best. It was mostly just about having the most fun and just enjoying the passion of this sport.
All right, so before we wrap this up, we do this segment called uh, hot takes. So what hot
Okay.
takes is I'm just gonna ask you rapid fire questions, and I want you to answer the first thing that comes to mind. No thought. All right,
Okay.
so
I have ADHD, so
okay, well we'll see what happens.
filters.
We'll
Anyway,
start with a guest question that we got. It was if you could have any sponsor, who would it be?
I don't know. I had so many good sponsors. I don't think I would have changed any of them.
Any
Um,
company doesn't have to be
um,
skateboarding related.
uh, it would be really cool to have like an airline sponsor
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
or like a credit card company sponsor or like, just something to make more things happen. It's not even just like about the product itself. It's just like, hey, give me opportunities.
All right, toe side or heel side?
Heel side.
Uh,
Well, heel side stand up, toe side drift.
okay, fair. Favorite skate trip food?
Chocolate.
Best place to skate.
The French Alps.
Do you crumple or roll your toilet paper?
Old.
Soft wheels or hard wheels?
Soft.
Okay, square lip or round lip?
Younger bagels would be square. Ha. Later gen bagels round.
What's your favorite Duro?
80? 88?
All right. Would you rather ride powder or ride a freshly paved road? Or not, let's not say freshly paved because that might not be good. Let's say Malibu paved road.
I was gonna say that's a hard send if it's like fresh slurry. Oh God. Porque no los dos. I want powder and like Cali Classic in my life. I live in SoCal. I can do that and surf all in the same day. Let's
Yeah.
go. I don't surf. It's fine.
All right. You're going on a skate trip. Who's in the van and where are you going?
Okay. Who's in the van? Grace, Emily, um, hmm, where are we going? Norway.
Hell yeah. What's the most memorable event for you?
Hmm. I mean, there's so many that have so many memories and so fantastic. I think I loved like the era of Kozakov. Like Kozakov at its peak era was
Yeah,
everything.
that sounds like it. That sounds
And Tepe.
so good.
I love I love Tepe, except when people would crash me out. But like peak Tepe was great too. But I really do think like peak Kozakov, like 2014 to like 2017 was just everything. It
What do
was
you
everything.
think's gonna pick up where Tepe left off?
Tears.
What?
I said tears.
Tears? Oh, that's so sad. Uh,
I mean, it's we know it's coming to an end. This is the last year, so it's just reality. We're all going to be very sad. It's going to be a big hole that's going to be felt by the California and beyond community because Tepe was such a fantastic event on such an incredible road.
facts. Maybe Californians will start coming to Giants Head and Maryhill again. All right. Listen.
Maybe. A lot of Californians are lazy.
Well, why do they need to leave? They've got good hills. Uh, do you listen to music
I
when you skate?
mean, no, I've tried to like have headphones in and stuff, and I literally just tune it out because I'm so focused on what I'm doing, safety, being alert, and just like the feeling of like
Yeah.
flying.
Senses are very important when skating downhill. If you had to surf, skate, or snowboard, and you could only pick one for the rest of your life, what would you pick?
Snowboard,
Snowboard? Okay,
snowboard.
fair. It's definitely very impact resistant.
I just like, yeah, it's just where I am now. That is the answer. And there's nothing like the feeling of like flying down a mountain road and, especially a windy road with corners and sliding and stuff like that. But snowboarding it's just it's so fun and soft and skating in powder and winter and snow and being in the trees and like the I feel like, once I get better at snowboarding, I'll be able to unlock the same like feeling of speed and stuff. And then I can add the like curves with like, going through trees and then the adrenaline and stuff. And so it's just like for where I am now, that's the answer.
You could live anywhere. Where would it be?
Norway or New Zealand.
All right. Is it longboarding or downhill skateboarding to you?
Downhill skateboarding.
All right. Is downhill skateboarding a sport, a lifestyle, or an art?
Depends who you're talking to. I think it's a sport, but I don't think it's like a high level like sport in terms of the definition of a lot of sports, because a lot of sports exist in terms of like the necessity of competition. And I think that that's one of the cool things about skating is it doesn't solely exist with the ultimate goal of competing. And so you could just do it as an art form. You could do it as an expression. You could do it for the community, and you could do it for whatever reason you want to do it. But it still involves so much athleticism, and that, can't deny that it is a
It's
sport.
crazy that like people like revolve their whole life around downhill skateboarding. Like, let's just call it a sport. It's we're basing our whole life existence around a sport. That's wild to me when you think about it.
A lot of people do it in a lot of other sports. It's just kind of like,
They're more supported.
skateboarding is very rebellious and it's also not seen as a serious thing by a lot of society. And so, it just has that like negative view that also impacts the viewpoints from within. And there's also just the like innate rebelliousness of it that a lot of people have to stick to. So no matter what something is said, is always going to be rebellion from the inside.
All right. I don't know if you're up to date on trends, but what's the kookiest trend happening now, in your opinion?
Oh, the first thing that came to my mind is something I hate seeing, which is transphobia. It's the worst fucking trend. Um,
Pretty kooky, that's for damn sure.
I think I'll stick with that because that's the answer. People can do whatever to ride their boards and make it comfortable, and to each their own with gear. If it makes you happy, ride it. If you're not, if you're safe, ride it. But just let everybody skate.
Yep. And then who's the goat?
Emily Press.
Yeah.
No contest. Emily is one of the best skaters that downhill has ever seen, and she's always been in a box that she's excelled out of, but unfortunately there's only so far that things can go because that box still exists just because she's a woman. And the sport didn't appreciate her enough for what she deserves. She deserves so much more. Also, Grace is a goat as well, but I'm being biased. She's my
You
husband.
know what that makes me think of not having the opportunities allowed to her for being as good as she was is that maybe like skateboarding in general just doesn't have opportunities to give in general. Like we all got caught on this wave and we're just kind of like riding it until the wheels fall off. And unfortunately for some people like that never really would have gone very high. And for some it went high for like maybe like a day or two and then just dropped off. Like it's like that whole like big fish small pond kind of thing.
Mhm. Yeah, I think Emily's all very much been in that way, and I think it's also she just had some bad luck because I've had an amazing career and I've been lucky through the whole time and like sponsored through the whole time. And there were points in my career where I'm showing up to a race with 20 sets of fresh wheels to ride, and Emily didn't even have that. Undefeated world champ without a wheel sponsor. Like it just, you know, kind of just doesn't make sense. And so there's a lot of things. And then, in terms of, getting your time in the spotlight on social media, there's a lot of like aesthetic standards that if you don't fall into, you don't you don't get to show. And that's like a thing that a lot of us experience, and it really sucks. But it's just reality. And especially in terms of like getting exposure outside of our industry. And if anybody wanted to like get sponsored by big sponsors that weren't downhill skateboard companies and stuff, it takes so much to get that. And there's so many things that it just never got that
Yeah.
place. Like for Emily, Emily should have been on fucking Oprah. Emily should have like a documentary about her. There's literally, like, the good and the bad, it's all Emily Pross, and what she has done for the sport and what she did in her career is just a phenomenon, and a phenomenon. And she just never got her fucking coins. And she, yeah,
Well,
a lot of,
you
things
think
mixed up.
about like if she was to get like a big sponsor, if anyone, we have the extra hurdle of trying to connect what we do to normal ass people for that brand, right?
Hmm.
Like we have to do the extra work.
Well, and just the vision that a company wants to be associated
Yeah.
with. And I think that that's, a lot of the barrier as to why like every not skateboarding company that sponsors skateboarders doesn't sponsor downhill. It won't look good because what we do looks dangerous, and we don't do it in like safe
Yeah.
spaces, like skaters, all their videos are, at skate parks, on ramps, in like designated areas. We're skating open roads. We're literally doing stuff that looks entirely, and probably is sometimes, illegal as fuck. And so a lot of companies just don't want that association. And that is entirely
Yeah.
fair. It makes so much
You know what's
sense.
funny?
Like the image is everything.
What's funny
Mm.
to think about is that like maybe like 10% to 30% of a street skater's professional video part is done in illegal spaces, whereas like 100% of a downhill skater's video part is in illegal spaces. You know, so it is really hard to market when you say it that way.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Like
it's
full
like,
blown pirates.
some areas it's literally, yeah, it's literally illegal. And then you look at places like North Carolina, like Asheville, for example, you know, half of the roads we're skating, we're literally breaking and entering to do it. And it's like, yeah, a lot of, whether or not a company would know that by looking at a video of a road, of course, but like it's just it's understandable the lack of association that outside sponsors take with downhill skateboarding, because it doesn't show up right in terms of like they don't want to be connected with people who are breaking the law
Right.
all the time just to do our sport, because we don't have any safe actual spaces to do it, like snowboarders at resorts and mountaintops, and skaters in skate parks, and just skating in cul-de-sacs and at stairs and stuff. And it's just like it's a sad thing, but it makes
Yeah.
sense. It really
If
makes
you see
sense.
a road, then you know it's illegal. It's like it's just automatically like there's no questioning it. Like
Well, I think that actually it's legal in New Zealand. We don't have Grace here to fact check this, but I specifically remember being pulled over in New Zealand, and one of the skaters we were with pulled out a piece of paper that I think he always skates with that is the law, that says that it isn't illegal or that it is legal, and it like falls into this like gray area of legality, versus like certain parts of certain cities there's like specific legislature that says, like in Santa Barbara right now, from however many years ago, they literally made legislature that says it's illegal to skate three specific roads in Santa Barbara proper. So if you are skating those roads, you are literally breaking the law. Versus other places, it might be a gray area. I remember there's this like story from way long ago in the LA skate culture of a loser skating, I think 39, or maybe it was Baldy or something, and got pulled over by a cop, and the cop had no like actual law to cite, to the so they wrote the ticket for the act, was the illegal act was tobogganing on the highway. The judge laughed it off. I
God.
don't know, honestly, this is like lore that's been passed down in the culture here. So
Yeah,
who knows how realistic that story is? But we all know a story similar to
right.
that, whether or not that specific story is real, because it just depends on the cop.
Yep.
You know, if the cop hates skateboarders or not, because they'll do whatever it can. Oh, you're getting a ticket for having a toy on a motorway.
Yeah,
You
you're
know,
you're impeding traffic. You're a
there's a lot
pedestrian
of
in the
gray.
roadway. Whatever. They'll just get you for
Yeah,
whatever.
whatever it is. Yeah, whatever it is, it just depends on how much a cop hates skateboarders, which, there's a lot of.
You-
Can I tell you? Can I tell you a funny story?
Yeah.
So I know we're really going on here, but I just got reminded of the story and I haven't actually thought about it in years, so I want to share.
Shoot.
So one of the things about Kozakov was that the the IDF race that Kozakov was, it used to be IGSA, it became IDF, was the international competition, and the week before they would do like the um Czech championships at Kozakov. So there was racing happening at Kozakov before the international portion of it. So if you showed up to Kozakov early, you could pay more to get more riding in before the actual official like international event happened, which was already like 5 days. Kozakov was always a long event. And so there was one year where like the Australians came, and I mean, there's reputations from the Australian skaters, but there's one year that the Australians came and they like went early some amount of days to the event, and they would just send it so hard and send these like huge pack runs as they started getting more comfortable that the event ran out of hay bales, and the event literally had to go to the Australian skaters and say, "You all need to calm the fuck down. We're running out of hay
Yeah.
bales and we cannot handle you crashing and taking these intense pack runs that are leading to all of these
That's
crashes."
insane.
Okay, another story off opposite of that. There was an event in Austria that we went to, and it was this windy road. It was called Kingsgate, I think, and they had zero hay bales. Zero. Zero protection on the entire course, which it's also like worse to think about if you understand that Austria, an event in Austria in the summer means that there's like a 60% chance it's going to rain. It's literally that high a chance of rain. Maybe not as much now because of, climate change, but it was like that high of a chance of rain. And it did rain. Like there was one night where it was like a really scary thunderstorm where like the campsite flooded. But anyway, so they had no protection on the side of the road at all on this course that was a narrow race course where it was definitely going to rain. And so we all showed up and we're skating and we're just kind of like, what the fuck? And you skate a little less dangerous when you don't have any precautions, you don't have any protection on the side of the road. And so I think it was Dana it was either Dana or one of the Colorado guys who decided to sacrifice themselves.
No.
And so what they did was they purposefully crashed and threw themselves like off the side of the road to prove a
What?
point, to tell them, get fucking protection. And so after that happened, they then brought in, the like ski pads that they'll use, like the mattress type things. Then they brought in those mattresses and put some along the road. It literally like took one of these guys full on like crashing. I think they maybe had nets, and maybe nets was the only thing. And so they like specifically picked this corner with nets to crash into to prove that the nets actually didn't do shit. And then the event put protective like
Just
mattresses
because you can throw an event doesn't mean you should.
up. It's the wild concept. Like the first Angie's curves they ever did, they had like too many hay bales. They literally created a tunnel of hay bales because they were like three levels high, like the entire upper section. And so people were saying that they literally did not like racing there because they couldn't see anything. They felt like they were racing in a tunnel because they had too many hay bales. Be safer than less safe, especially like certain countries you go to. You're like, oh, I'm skating in the Philippines. The protection is a bag of banana leaves. Don't fuck up. But you're in Austria. I'm sorry. There's no excuse to not have protection on the side of the road. If like, come the fuck
Yeah,
on.
that's one thing.
It was
That's
wild.
one thing that I've always thought about, like traveling to skate events, like as far as races are concerned. Like if it's a free ride and there's no hay bales, I'm not really too worried about it as long as there's no like, you know, metal guardrail death situations. But if I'm
Mhm.
going to a place for a
Mhm.
race across the world and there's no fucking hay bales, I'm gonna lose my shit. And they're not gonna have any clue either. They're probably gonna be
Oh,
like, "What's your problem?" It's like, dude, what the fuck do you mean? What's my problem? That's my problem.
literally at the World Skate Games in Barcelona, the whole issue on how they did their track was just like chaos to begin with because of choosing a road and changing things and blah blah blah. So the road they ended up with was part of the like Olympic arena where they were hosting these events, the multiple events for the World Skate Games. And so it was this windy short road that then met with a main road that was like perpendicular. So they couldn't close down that main road. So what they did was they just made one lane on the far right of it for us to be our shutdown area. The problem is it was at a 90-degree angle, and like the fastest part of the race was pretty much the finish line. And so you're coming into the finish line, you're going uphill a smidgen to then make a 90-degree right uphill, and you don't lose much speed. So you're still going at least like 35, 40. And so in that 90-degree, they had K-wall and hay bales. And guess what happened? My first run, I hit K-wall because it just happened to be an exposed area that didn't have a hay bale or a mattress. And so I hit the K-wall, and the whole thing is like somebody like the USA photographer Jeff Suchi was there, and he literally got photos of the entire like sequence of me going into the K wall. And then I'm just yelling, like, why the fuck did I just hit exposed K wall? And I'm going wild. And I'm like yelling at everybody. And I'm just like, this is not okay. Put a fucking hay bale there. And then the next round I took, they put a bale there, and I watched my friend hit that bale. And I'm like, you're welcome.
I feel like we've all been there. Um, when you see something that shouldn't be
Oh,
how it is, like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I remember not to put Tepe on blast, but I remember like one of the first Tepes I went to. There was like one line of hay around a right hand corner, and like not enough to stop you, and then a cliff. And at the bottom of the cliff, there were just like metal pipes exposed, broken in half, jagged as fuck, sticking upward, like pointing at you. And it's like, cool. My skateboard just went right onto that. If that was my body, I would be impaled. It's just like, should probably fix that, guys. Like,
I mean, it's like those roads you skate where there's like that one corner that's like, don't go off left. And so it becomes part of the like image of the road. It's like, if you know anything about this road, don't go off left. This is the spot that you slow the fuck down for so that you do not die. And so,
mm-hmm.
you learn that. And so you know that ahead of time. So even though the corner is protected, you're like, oh, this corner's reputation precedes itself. So people are going to know. But it's like, you can't do that at an event because people don't know. You overly protect that corner and you put extra protection there because it's the don't go off left. It's not, it's a don't go off right at Tepe, but
Yeah, I would say like the I mean like the nature of the beast at events is just to like see how hard you can push it at the on the course. Like what what's the maximum speed you can go into a corner. And if you don't have protection
hmm
to allow that, then you're just asking for something to happen. So I feel like that's the job, you know. You've just got to make it as safe as humanly possible. You should spend extra money on hay bales, and yeah, just don't fuck up.
well, so other funny story, this race in Colombia was on this really gnarly road, really long and really intense. I actually didn't race it because of my ankle. It was Festival de la Bajada, which is the road that Patrick Switzer had his horrible ankle injury the year before. But anyway, so this road is lined with hay bales. And we found out one of the days of the event that overnight people were actually like coming to the hill and stealing the hay bales. So every day of the event there was like less and less
Oh,
hay bales. And they actually had people like patrolling with like giant guns throughout, but people were still getting away with literally stealing the hay bales. So literally every single day, and of course race day is the last day. So race day, they had a ton of hay bales, so it wasn't actually like detrimental overwhelmingly, but like every day they had less and less hay bales because they literally were getting stolen. It's like that's a thing that happens, I
it's
guess.
like the culture experience, you know? That's the cool thing about traveling, though. You get to find out like quirky little things that happen. Like, oh, I mean, even America, like even like North America, like in Tennessee and shit, like that culture in Tennessee blew my fucking mind. It was just like, what is going on in this town? Like, what is going on in this part of the country? So, yeah, I mean, fuck yeah for traveling. Fuck yeah for skateboarding and getting us these places. Um, Bagels, it's been rad having you on.
100%.
Uh, Always down to have you on for another episode, talk more about your travels and hear more about your experiences. Thanks for sliding through. Is there anything or anybody you'd like to shout out before we let you go?
um Thankful for all my sponsors that let me do what I did, especially my parents, biggest support system there is, and that made me able to do what I did. Thankful for all the people that have made like skating safe and made me feel comfortable, and the big names from the beginning like Joe Gakowski, Kyle Chin, Matt Pexon, Sam Powell, Ari Chamasmani. If it wasn't for these helping hands that like helped me progress in like a really safe way, I wouldn't be where I am, and that's fantastic. And Yeah,
Hell yeah. Well, thanks for sliding through. Have a good one.
cheers, cheers, thank you.
Peace.